This is The Fan Rochester. WROC AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester. And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
A very good afternoon to you. Welcome on in to Rochester's only local sports talk show. It's a sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. We're glad you're with us. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950 in the Rochester area and anywhere in the Odyssey app, iHeartRadio app, TuneIn app. And if you're on your couch or you're streaming on your phone, we are on our YouTube channel and on Twitch. Follow us at The Fan Rochester every afternoon from 3 to 6. We stream the show live. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
Good to be back in the studio today, Danger. It's been a lot of fun out at camp. And then for everybody driving out to Buffalo today, glad you have a
I hope
fun afternoon.
I hope you left earlier than 3
Yeah.
o'clock because from what we hear from everybody in Rochester, everybody that's gone to the Return of the Blue and the Red, the timing of it is tricky. It's rush hour. Traffic is a bit of a challenge. And even Pete Gwelly, who we've had on the show with us, put out earlier today, hey, if you're coming to the Blue and the Red, come early. Try to get here early as possible to avoid all of the traffic.
Well, can we imagine what this is going to look like next year? Like, that will be the open house event, will it not?
Sure.
They're probably going to have a concert beforehand. They haven't announced anything like that. But where tonight you'll have the lower bowl full. I would think the attraction of just going into a stadium that a lot of people, let's be honest, Danger, won't be able to afford or won't have the tickets. But I want to see this. That's going to be sold out. I mean, 60,000
for sure
next year.
If that is, when you consider that they've said they're getting the keys to Highmark, the new Highmark Stadium in July, I don't know that they'll have time to work out any bugs or have some kind of a big event before you get to the Blue and the Red. I mean, let's face it, today is August 1st. You're going to be able to put on an event the first month that you're there at Highmark Stadium. I would say that the Bills organization would probably want to focus all of their energies on making sure that the 26 season is flawless. And if they do what they've done every year, then the Return of the Blue and the Red will be the first event at Highmark Stadium.
And
new Highmark Stadium.
Yeah, and if that's the case next year, where you might be leaving 2 o'clock today, if you're leaving right now, good
Take
luck.
the day off.
Take the day off. It'll be a 3-day weekend for Bills fans next year. Call it our own holiday. Stadium opening day here. Should be a lot of fun tonight. Are we taking bets, Danger?
I think there's only one. You're talking about the helmet.
Okay,
the helmet. Let's review the history of Josh Allen showing up to the practice, the Return of the Blue and the Red tonight, with a different helmet. It started. He did the red helmet one year, but it wasn't like the red helmet. It was like a different red helmet.
It was the red helmet that actually the Bills wore back in the day, but because the actual red itself was different. It looked kind of wonky.
Didn't look great.
No, it didn't look great, but it drew a reaction so much so that, okay, let me do this again. And the next year was blue.
The blue chrome.
And then last year it was black with a red stripe.
Black matte finish, red standing buffalo.
Which that looked kind of cool. So this year, Danger, let's do a draft, buddy, real quick.
I give plus 100 odds to the Buffalo Bills potato logo on a white helmet. Josh Allen has some hats to sell.
So Josh Allen, by saying has to sell, he's actually an investor in New Era.
Yes.
Where that would benefit New Era. What's the relationship between New Era and the Buffalo Bills right now?
I don't know.
Well, I could tell you that they had the stadium rights until,
they stopped paying for it.
Stopped paying their bill, and then, now it's called Highmark. So I don't know if we want to kind of go there, but if that's your first-round pick, I'm going to say it's the silver helmet. I think whatever it is that Nike's going to unveil, that date in August, something close to that. So put me on the board for silver.
All right.
And then I get, in this draft, I get the next pick as well.
Okay.
Zubaz helmet for Josh Allen tonight.
If I get the second pick, if it's not the potato logo, then I would say it is not silver but white with silver logo, silver trim. And then if I'm going back around the horn, instead of blue chrome, let me go blue matte finish. Blue matte finish, red standing buffalo.
And for my final pick, we'll end it right here. I'm going to go with red metallic.
Ooh.
Like Houston.
Yeah, like a
Cougar
red
football.
chrome.
Yeah, like something red chrome.
Okay. There you go. We'll wait.
Because
I don't know. Do you
think behind the curtain? We bet on everything here on this show.
Do you think? I'm just going to ask the question. Forgive me. Do you think anybody will get footage of Josh Allen coming out of the tunnel wearing the helmet? I'm just wondering if we'll know. How do we know?
Don't.
How do we know for sure? How will there be anybody shooting that? Will anybody be able to share that via tweet on X? Can we get coverage of that? Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll see who wins this one and what helmet Josh Allen dons tonight for the return of the blue and the red at Highmark Stadium. We've got a fun show lined up for you this afternoon here in the Sports Bar. And because we don't have a practice to talk about, we do have news around the NFL that we'll get to shortly. We want to dive into fantasy football.
It's
fantasy
we're
football.
overdue.
Yeah.
We're overdue. You realize we haven't talked to Andy Behrens in months?
It's been months.
Yeah.
And redraft league draft season is about to heat up as you move through the month of August. The noise intensifies. By the time you get to Labor Day weekend, chances are you've already had your draft, or maybe you're coming up on your draft. Labor Day weekend always feels like the time that everybody tries to squeeze in a draft. And I like everybody to have their Labor Day weekend off. Everybody enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Don't worry about any sort of fantasy football draft. So we'll try to make you more prepared for your redraft leagues and your drafts that are coming up here through the month of August. With Andy Behrens, we'll stop by here in about 20 minutes or so. And then in the 4 o'clock hour from Football Guys, we'll talk to Bob Harris, one of our favorites.
Yeah, because let's overreact to Keandre Lambert-Smith from the Chargers, buddy. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. I know it's the Hall of Fame game. I know it's a 0. It doesn't mean anything. And even Collinsworth at the end of the game was like, this game, if you're a Lions fan, this game doesn't mean anything. I'm like, wow, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
We all know it doesn't mean anything. But to hear even Collinsworth say it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't mean anything. But Trey Lance looked pretty good. If you got Trey Lance in a competition if Trey Lance is in a competition with Taylor Heineke to back up Justin Herbert, look, I kind of like Trey Lance's chances, not just based on what he did last night in Canton, because he looked really good last night. A decent stat line for Trey Lance last night. 13 of 20, 120 yards. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in the Chargers' 34-7 win over the Lions. There's a takeaway there. I mean, if there's a competition between he and Heineke for the backup Justin Herbert, I give Lance a leg up right now. He looked good.
It's funny. Like, could Trey Lance have kind of like a Geno Smith type of arc to his career, where you're a backup, and like for Geno Smith this year for the Raiders, I don't think a lot of people take that seriously. But if there's ever a guy that was born to be a Raider, it's probably Geno Smith, right? Like a guy that was overlooked and have had a claw and everything, and he fits that old-time culture.
Do you know how many college starts Trey Lance had?
I saw this last night. What was it? It was something dumb. It was like 10, right?
17.
17.
And it was with the university. It was with North Dakota State University. 17 starts at NDSU.
What the hell are we doing if he rocketed up the board that far?
And he rocketed up the board that far because Shanahan apparently fell in love with the skill set.
The thing with this day and age, that will never happen again, because if there is a kid out there that has this, he would have gone somewhere else, Danger, more than likely, and taken the NIL money, and that would have been better for his career.
Yeah. 5 turnovers, no takeaways for the Lions. Dan Campbell not happy with his team's performance. But let's face it, the highlight of last night's game wasn't what was on the field. It was what happened before the game, what happened during the game. With Brent was fantastic. I mean, Maria let Brett throw it to break, and he snuck in there that the Lions were favored by a point. I mean, it was just classic Brett Musburger. Buckle up. You're going to get a great game. They're filling up their rosters. The Detroit Lions, the Los Angeles Chargers. And, oh, by the way, the Lions are favored by a point in this game. I'm like, Brent, never change. You're the best.
How can we not get more of this guy? Like some network, my gosh. Wouldn't you want him at least doing that once a week?
So great.
Yeah.
So great. So that was last night's game. Today, I don't even want to. There's a part of me that doesn't want to talk about it because I just know that the reason why this has gotten to this point is so Jerry Jones can say, we own the headlines. We are what everybody is talking about. Our actions are leading to us being the most relevant team in the NFL. And the fact of the matter is they're crazy. They're just nuts. The way they treat their star players, the way they run their star players through this process of trying to get an extension is insane. And you've got superstars that are on that team. CeeDee Lamb, who went through this process, setting out an update now, just like, why? Why are we doing this again? Why do we constantly do this? And Micah Parsons, who went on X to request a trade today from the Dallas Cowboys, basically saying, I don't want to be here anymore, and laying out all the reasons why he doesn't want to be here anymore, everything that has led to this point, the closed-door negotiations, the lack of the team reaching out to his agent and trying to force him to agree to something on his own. Look, I don't think the Cowboys are going to trade Micah Parsons. I think that this is all part of their show. It's all part of how they do things. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. I know there's a lot of Cowboy fans that are just tired of it. The players are tired of it. Other players probably look at it and say, like, I would never want to go through that with that organization, with that owner. But I don't think they're going to. I think when this is all said and done, much like Myles Garrett, Parsons will get his. He will be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. But all that being said, I'm sure there are a lot of teams right now that are picking up the phone and saying, what would it take?
So many different angles we can go here. Let me start, and we'll get to what would it take here in a little bit. But negotiations, right? They get personal, and when they get personal, they get emotional, okay? They're stressful, okay? You can mitigate this. And I think Brandon Beane does a good job mitigating the stress and emotion by just being clear. And one of the sales techniques is empathy. I know you want to be the highest paid. Here's our situation. Nero, name the objection, overcome, redirect, overcome. Empathy is the E in that. There's no sales techniques in Dallas. We're the Dallas Cowboys, and we're going to wait. And part of this equation danger is, like you said, they won't admit it, but they love themselves in the headline. Mm-hmm. They're addicted to the pub where, hey, if you're a winning organization, that just kind of comes with it. The Buffalo Bills are kind of a boring camp, but you know what? They were being talked about last night during the game because NBC had a game to promote. The Bills are opening up on Sunday Night Football, and that was kind of cool. Hearing, just random basic takes on the Buffalo Bills on a national broadcast. We're not talking about the Cowboys in that regard because you're not on they are on the Thursday night, but they're talking about like other stuff.
They're talking about this. They're talking about why Micah Parsons hasn't gotten his deal done. Micah Parsons, who showed up to camp, didn't have to, but showed up to camp. And his message on X, captioned "Thank you, Dallas," reads like a novel. It's fantastic. It's great. It's so dramatic and emotional and everything that you're saying. And all of that said, again, I don't believe that the Cowboys are going to trade Micah Parsons. But if you're the Buffalo Bills, would you give up? Let's use the Khalil Mack comp from a few years ago with the Bears, because I feel like that's a similar one. Khalil Mack was also kind of like this dominant pass rusher with the Raiders, and he wanted to get paid, and the Raiders didn't pay him. And they traded him to Chicago, and Chicago gave up, I want to say, 2 firsts, a third, and a 6th for Khalil Mack and a 2nd-round pick. Would you be willing to give up something of that value if your team wanted to trade for Micah Parsons? I would. I would do it. I would absolutely do it. I would give up 2 first-round picks. because you know what he is, you know what you need, and he's got it. He's a difference maker. Absolute difference maker. I'm not saying the Bills are going to do it. Do I think that they should explore this? Yes.
Oh, do I think they have? And there's reports today that the Cowboys were having discussions for whatever that means dating back to the offseason. Danger, of course, Brandon Beane has picked up the phone, but where are the Bills going to finish? I'm talking in terms of the draft over 29, 30. We hope 32. Okay, 2 picks, one being 32 and the next one next year being 28. Not as valuable as some other team. And the Bears in this example, they were kind of a mid-team. Let's be honest. Let's try to step it up here a little bit. It worked until it didn't in Chicago. I would think that the Bills would be in on this, but just like Myles Garrett, there's just too many factors going against them.
Right. Again, I think when this is all said and done and the dust settles, I'd be shocked if Micah Parsons is anything but a Dallas Cowboy. But, boy, it's fun. If you're a fan of football, if you're a fan of this player, I love this player. If you're a fan of this player and you're a fan of a team, you can't not want your team to make a call and try to get Micah Parsons away from the Dallas Cowboys.
I think Micah Parsons isn't going to go anywhere because first and foremost, Jerry wants an ongoing, lengthy discussion, serial programming, if you will. The thing that scares me in the NFL right now, okay, I'm thinking, would the Commanders actually trade Terry McLaurin? Scary Terry. And if they did, where would he go? They wouldn't trade him in division. They wouldn't trade him to the Rams. And Washington fancies themselves. Oh, no. It's crossing my mind like that's the one I'm keeping an eye on right now. If he landed in Kansas City, Danger.
If he landed in division and you had to face Terry McLaurin twice a year, are you nervous about that?
If he landed in New England, all of a sudden, that's
McLaurin and
yeah,
Diggs?
Yeah.
A little bit of an older duo, but very, very skilled. A little bit older. It would feel like, wouldn't it be just, of course he's going to go to the Chiefs. It was like when New England used to just get everybody, and you're like, of course New England got Randy Moss. Of course New England got that player. That's interesting. McLaurin also telling the team he would like to be traded after reporting to camp, but yet hasn't practiced. So a couple of star players in the NFC East worth monitoring here through the course of the weekend as to what goes on with Micah Parsons in Dallas and Terry McLaurin in Washington. A couple of guys looking to get paid. When Micah Parsons was actually first eligible for an extension, that would have been January of 2024. Coming off of a season in 2023 with 14 sacks, 64 tackles, a forced fumble, and the second highest defensive PFF grade. At that time, the top annual average among edge rushers was TJ Watt at $28 million. And for the Cowboys now to extend Micah Parsons, it's going to cost them north of $40 million if you want to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL. And he should be. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, the Cowboys don't, it's almost as if they don't understand value. They don't understand getting in front of the market, being first. Baffling. If you're a Cowboy fan, I imagine you're tired of this routine.
You would think public pressure would get them to change behavior. It's never going to happen.
No.
And then someday Jerry won't be making these decisions, and Steven will, and I don't think anything's going to change.
Right. So there you go. Your headlines from the NFL today. A couple of players, star players, looking to get out of their teams. And I don't know that, at least with one of them, I don't know that it's going to happen. But you can't help but think, if you're a fan, if you're a football fan, what it would be like if Parsons was on your team. What would that be like? Can't help but think about it. The return of the blue and the red is tonight at Highmark Stadium, the first event of the final season of the Buffalo Bills in their old stadium. We'll kind of keep tabs on what's going on here. I think the practice gets underway at 5:30?
5:30, so When does Josh kind of enter the field? Right during happy hour, right? Right at 5 o'clock, I would think.
Yeah.
We're not, by the way, this is not box wine bet. This is just friendly bet.
Oh, you
to kind of review. Okay, Danger has potato
logo. Yeah, white helmet, potato logo. That feels like the chalk pick to me.
Yep, you have white helmet, but with the silver.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had
Blue mat
with
blue mat finish with red standing buffalo.
I have silver, I have Zubaz, and I have red chrome.
Okay. What if it's off the board? What if it's something we haven't selected?
Jeez.
Come on. How creative are they going to get with these helmets? Fantasy football season is upon us.
Yes, it is.
We have redraft league drafts coming up throughout the month of August. I'm sure your commissioner is already planning them. I know I am already planning some. We have one on the books, Gino and I, we're already in for the Radio Geeks League here at work. It's fun, and I love talking about it. I love talking fantasy football with some of our favorites, and Andy Behrens through the years has been fantastic. No longer with Yahoo. I want to find out what Andy's been up to, what he's got cooking, and know that we're still going to lean on his advice because he's a smart dude. We're going to lean on his advice this fantasy football season. So we check in with Andy Behrens next on the Fan Rochester, and we talk some fantasy football. Stand by.
update.
Scrimmage tonight at Highmark Stadium, 5:30 for the start of this. Rookie TJ Sanders, looking forward to it.
I'm actually really ready for that. I was talking to DC when I first got here. He was like, we got like a little scrimmage type deal in the stadium during camp. Like, you're going to love that. And the closer and closer we get into it, it's like, I'm juiced.
Next practice at Fisher coming up Sunday morning at 11:15. One other Bills note, former receiver Amari Cooper announcing his retirement today. Scheduled to talk to Andy Barron, some fantasy football coming up next year in the Sports Bar. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Micah Parsons has requested a trade. On the Major League scoreboard, Reds over the Braves 3-2. The Cubs are up on Baltimore 1-0, top of 6. The Yankees tonight playing Miami. The Mets hosting the Giants. The Red Wings tonight in Charlotte. Gene Battaglia, The Fan, Rochester.
Taking place about 2 hours from now. So thanks for listening if you're on your way to Buffalo to take in that practice, the first event, the last season at the old stadium tonight with the team practicing and scrimmaging. The blue and the red return to Highmark Stadium tonight. Waiting for Andy Barron's, talk some fantasy football. Lots to get to this afternoon, including a conversation with Bob Harris of Football Guys. He stops by the Sports Bar in the 4 o'clock hour. We're going to try to get to some of these storylines before you get to your redraft league drafts that are happening probably throughout the month of August here, leading up right into Labor Day and maybe even through Labor Day weekend. So when we get Andy on here, we can discuss some of that. Also want to keep in mind that we're back at St. John Fisher University for Buffalo Bills training camp again on Monday. We'll be joined by Pat Harris, who is a Penfield grad, a Penfield native. Director of Hard Knocks, as Hard Knocks debuts on HBO Max on Tuesday. So we'll get a little preview from the director of Hard Knocks and Penfield native Pat Harris. Also, Elena Getzenberg, ESPN's NFL Nation, stops by the Sports Bar live from Buffalo Bills training camp coming up Monday afternoon. Andy Barron's, it's good to have you on with us, buddy. We know that this summer maybe has been less than ideal, but we're excited to hear what you're working on, what you're cooking, and excited more than anything to talk football with you, as we love to do this time of year. How you been doing, bud?
Oh, I'm good. It's great to be back, actually. Good to have training camps underway. Good to have kind of sort of real football to talk about. Good to have drafts in sight. I got to get my first big draft weekend of the season.
Oh, yeah, we're already scheduling dates. Everything is exciting. Andy, we always appreciate your time and giving us tips and everything. And Danger and I have been lucky to been, at a training camp so far for the Bills right down the road here. And if we could kind of start there, because Josh Allen obviously is a great pick at quarterback, but beyond that, we're trying to figure out James Cook. If that trio stays the same, Andy, meaning, hey, you're going to have a certain number of touches from Ray Davis, and Ty Johnson was siphoning off some. I thought it worked really well just from a football standpoint, but from I want to spend draft capital on James Cook, your outlook on Cook this year, could he actually get more share knowing, hey, I need more share to earn my next contract here?
I will say that he's not going at a terrible price, right? We're getting 4th round James Cook. I've seen 5th round James Cook. And granted, you probably wouldn't get that in Rochester. You probably wouldn't get that in Buffalo. But out here in the rest of the world, out here in the Midwest, where we're all about the NFC North, James Cook has fallen a little bit, and people aren't paying for the touchdowns. And of course, some of that is, just the workload last year, which was overall pretty light. And the problem that James Cook is facing is that Ray Davis was really good, right? Davis, when given an opportunity to step into significant workload, was great. He was spectacular in that Jets game. Ty Johnson made some of the most exciting plays of the team season. So they have a nice little collection of backs, and there's no reason for James Cook to be staring at 320 touches or something like that. So it is, those are the headwinds that he's facing. But also, life is good when you're tied to a team that is going to average between 28 and 32 points per week, right? So that's the appeal of him. I don't think there's much of a path for James Cook to finish as, like if he were to finish as a top 5 running back, that's like a 99th percentile outcome for him. I doubt that happens, again, just because of the size of the workload. But can he justify a 4th-round draft price? Absolutely.
Yeah. Andy, it's funny because you just mentioned that the Bills are probably going to score somewhere between 28 and 32 points a game, and I think everybody sees this offense as high-powered, and they're consistent. There's continuity there, and not much has changed from last year to this year. But are they one of those offenses that you want to target in terms of trying to grab a share of outside of Josh Allen? Because you think of offenses that score a lot of points, like the Lions as an example, and you want to grab as many pieces of that offense as you can. Are there other offenses that you're targeting maybe more so than the Bills in terms of trying to grab a share of the offense that's going to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit on the actual approach to Bills offense, which is that the one certainty week in and week out is Josh Allen. And they did it in different ways, but the Saints offense during the Drew Brees, Sean Payton collaboration years was like this too. There was exactly one safe way to invest in the Saints, and that was Drew Brees. And everything else was messy, right? It was, the week's touchdowns could go to virtually any player. There were a couple of backs that were heavily involved, and you didn't necessarily know who was scoring in a given week. They just had a lot of pieces they liked, and that's good NFL offense, right? You don't know where the ball is necessarily going, but you know that the quarterback at the end of the day, because it's such a prolific offense, is going to have all the stats, and that's where we're at with Josh Allen. I was just looking at the quarterback position a couple days ago, both historically and in recent years, and one of the points that I was drawn to is that, like, in the entire history of the position, in terms of fantasy scoring, 19 of the top 25 fantasy seasons at quarterback have actually occurred within the last 10 years, and 5 of those belong to Josh Allen. Like, it's an absolute lock. Like, we don't say this in fantasy very often, but I mean, if we get 15 games from Josh Allen, he's a top 1 or top 2 quarterback. That's just where we are. The touchdowns are there, the rushing stats are there, and he's got a weapons grade arm and good enough receivers. And so he is the singular safe way to invest in this offense. James Cook is another. Khalil Shakir is fantastic in a PPR and a wonderful real-life player, but the receiving core obviously gets messy in a hurry.
We're talking to Andy Behrens. It's time to start thinking about some fantasy football. And Andy, I'm not going to ask you to overreact, to the Chargers and Lions.
Yeah, you are.
All right. Is there anything we can clean off that? They have a good rookie running back. I mean, whether it's from the Chargers or whoever that may be, let's talk about some of the rookies that, all right, you're just thinking back to the draft, or good places where you might get some touches. Who are some new faces that you see going high in some of these drafts?
It's such a good rookie class at running back, and it's hard to imagine, that they're rookies, and I should throw out all the caveats, right? Like, we never really know. But man, running back is historically one of those positions where rookies can make an immediate impact, and often actually have, the best season of your NFL career could be a rookie season at running back. That's pretty common. It's just a great class and a deep class. At the top, it's spectacular with Ashton Genty, who, it's Raheem Mostert behind him. Like, Ashton Genty could lead the NFL in touches this year. And that's, that's going to be a pretty good offense. He's a dynamic playmaker. He can do a little bit of everything. Ashton Genty finishing as a top 5 fantasy back is very much in play. Omarion Hampton, all of a sudden, with the Chargers, actually kind of, he got drafted into a good situation long term, but maybe you were worried a little bit about the presence of Najee Harris. But now Najee has this, it's super unfortunate, but he's got this eye issue that has kept him sidelined, and we have no idea when we're actually going to get Najee Harris back in the mix. So there's a lot of runway for Hampton. He was a great college player. In terms of elusiveness, in terms of power, in terms of receiving ability, like just a do-it-all player. And now he's in a great offense. So he's a pretty clear number 2. beyond that, it's still really deep. Like Caleb Johnson from Iowa landed in the perfect spot in Pittsburgh. I mean, man, he was a terrific outside zone runner in college. He gets to step into that Arthur Smith system. He's going to be really good. RJ Harvey in Denver is going to be really good. I mean, it's just loaded. TreVeyon Henderson in New England is going to be really good. Like it's the whole class is full of people who landed in really exciting spots. So it's not like we were excited about the class and then they all just sort of landed in places where you really have to squint to make it work. No, these guys landed in terrific homes. Even Cam Scatabo, you look at his situation in New York. Tyrone Tracy is screaming out for someone to partner with him, someone to complement him in that backfield. So there's a clear path for Scatabo too. So just up and down drafts, really talented players who made their mark in college and are well known to everyone landed in really appealing environments. So it's not going to be a huge surprise if we see 2 top 10 fantasy running backs this year who happen to be rookies, and maybe 2 or 3 more who finish among the RB2s who are also rookies. Like it's that deep a class, and the offenses that they're tied to are that appealing.
So, Andy, when you look back at last season, would you say that the running back position for fantasy purposes had a bit of a resurgence here? Because after seeing Saquon do what he did, after seeing Derrick Henry have the season he had, knowing that Christian McCaffrey was banged up but is returning this year, I mean, are we that bought in on targeting running backs early on in our drafts? Because it feels like that script has flipped it over the course of the last couple of seasons versus when we were looking at wide receivers earlier in the first round.
Yeah, I honestly, I think the thing that really happened last year is that the best players all stayed healthy. It's not to say that running back isn't still an injury-prone position, right? Because the idea is that your lead back is going to touch the ball at least 250 times. So those guys get banged up. There are high injury rates. That is still something that should concern you. We just happen to have a year in which everybody who went in the first round, with the notable exception of the number 1 overall pick, Christian McCaffrey, but everybody else stayed pretty healthy, right? Like that whole group. I want to say it was something like, I just looked at this, it was something like 13 of the top 15 running backs last year in terms of ADP managed to at least play 14 or 15 games. Like they all made it. And that isn't guaranteed to happen. We have years where like half of the first round running backs either face plant or they get hurt, and that's just the nature of the position. We always still target this position early because it sees the most touches. A running back is definitely going to lead the league in scrimmage yards, and that's what pays the fantasy bills. So we have to target running backs at the top of drafts. So it's a little bit of both, right? Like the position inarguably surged last year, and there was a renaissance, and Barkley was great, and Henry was great, and Gibbs was great, and all these guys are terrific. James Cook was absolutely terrific, but also the right guys stayed healthy, and we can't count on that in 2025.
Andy, I'm always curious to get your thoughts about new situations, new quarterback, new coach. You mentioned Ashton Genty, but what beyond there with the Raiders? We know Brock Bowers was a great talent last year, but how does this translate? How does Geno Smith? Are you getting Jacoby Myers at a value late? Am I overvaluing all this? I'm just thinking maybe the Raiders are going to be playing catch up in a lot of games. I don't know. What do you think of the Raiders now under Pete Carroll?
Yeah, I would say this is something you should apply to every team where, my team, the Bears, they are such a franchise, right? Where like the coach is new, and the quarterback is still the same guy, but we got multiple new offensive linemen, we got new members of the receiving corps, and obviously the Raiders the same way. They got a new coach, they got a new coordinator, they got a new quarterback. It's hard. The NFL ultimately is a continuity league. We talk about that all the time. And I like great offenses that have quiet off seasons and they're just running it back. And maybe they made some ads at the edges. Those are the teams that, the teams that dominated last year. Philly doesn't have a noisy off season, but they're going to be great. The great teams stay great as long as they don't rock the boat too much. And that is obviously not the case for the Vegas Raiders. It's still a fun group of pieces. But I think you should assume with all such teams that it's going to take a while. Like September could be messy, October could be messy. 1 week might not look like the next week. These are the teams that it can become difficult for them to sustain drives because there's miscommunications and players are out of sync, and it's just hard. Like the NFL is extraordinarily hard. So I'd give these teams a little bit of runway and not assume necessarily that if the Raiders don't just absolutely hit the ground running week one, that they're doomed. They are not. They have a lot of talent. I think Geno Smith has been really, really fun these last few years, and I think he's gonna eventually get it in Vegas too. But it is tough when all the stuff is new.
Let's stay in the AFC West because the AFC is run through Kansas City for as long as Patrick Mahomes has been there, and Andy Reid has been there a long time. And you talk about continuity, and I imagine that the Chiefs are one of those offenses that you want to grab a share of one way or another. What are some of the pieces that you're high on out of Kansas City's offense heading into the fantasy season, Andy?
Yeah, well, first of all, Isaiah Pacheco is back and presumably healthy. Looks healthy. A lot of hype around him in camp, and you should always take that stuff with a grain of salt. But when he returned last year, he returned from a pretty significant leg fracture, and he wasn't the same version of himself. So I think he's going to be really interesting. And the same setup that he enjoyed last year and that was going to go well for him before the injury can go well for him this year. So I think he's very interesting. The dominant storyline there, really fantasy-wise, is what awaits Rashee Rice, because it's probably a suspension of to some extent. Whether it's 3 weeks to 6 weeks matters a whole lot in terms of how you can value him going into the season, because if Rice is facing a 6-week suspension, now we're talking about half your fantasy season. And you can feel like you're being really smart. You draft him, I'm going to stash him, and it's going to be great. He's going to come back healthy, and he'll dominate for me. But if you start 0-3, you have to trade him, right? Like you got to win. And so a player like that is really, really tough because he can be super impactful, but he's not going to be able to help you probably for the first month of the season, and that is very difficult to manage around. We still feel good about Patrick Mahomes. He's as good as it gets to the position. I actually think you can still we're getting Travis Kelce for nothing. People are running away from him, and I think he's still going to finish as a top 8 fantasy tight end. I think that whole team probably has a chip on its shoulder and feels a little bit embarrassed by the way the Super Bowl went for them, which is a crazy thing to say, right? You made it to a Super Bowl, but they can't possibly be satisfied. So if that receiving core actually stays healthy, we get a healthy Hollywood Brown, we get a healthy Xavier Worthy. I don't know. They got some talent.
Yeah, one more question about the division there, because you mentioned continuity and just kind of poking fun at myself. I remember asking you last year about Audric Estime. That didn't happen. He's still in Denver, but he's got guys ahead of him. Sean Payton's back. Bo Nix, year number 2. This is a team that got into the postseason. There's a lot of good vibes coming out of Denver here, and Sutton just getting his money. Are we ready to see this Denver Bronco offense take another step forward, Andy?
Yeah, it's so easy to sort of build the comparisons between this Sean Payton team and the great Saints teams, right? Because we have a pair of running backs who are probably going to work in tandem. Each of them see a bunch of carries. It's kind of easy to make a case that's kind of the thumper in J.K. Dobbins and a more of a specialist back who's really exciting in R.J. Harvey. They should both get drafted. They're probably going to trade off like which guy has the big weeks because that is Sean Payton's history. I don't think either one of them is in line for 300 touches, but I think they can both be healthy. And Dobbins was pretty awesome last year. It's a good receiving core. You didn't mention Marvin Mims, but he's been one of my favorite draft values. Like if you just take the second half of his season last year, which is not a small sample, right? That's half of a season, and it's the right half of the season. It's the back half. You extend that out over a full year, and he's like a wide receiver too, with a ton of touchdowns and a ton of big plays. That guy made some of the biggest plays of the season for the Broncos, and he's just a downfield burner. So if you like Bo Nix this year, you should, by extension, really like Marvin Mims. I think he's one of the most well-priced players in fantasy, one of my favorite values. Also, they add Evan Ingram, who not the most explosive or dynamic player, but a guy who can just really suck up volume. So they have a good receiving core around Bo Nix, and he obviously showed some exciting things last year. My personal feeling on Nix is that they won 10 games, they made the playoffs. It was a great season. I don't think he necessarily separated himself from from Drake May, from Caleb Williams. I know people don't want to hear that. There's a lot of enthusiasm about Bo Nix. I just thought the week-to-week experience of watching Bo Nix was not fundamentally different from watching Drake May. So I never land him in drafts because somebody is always willing to take him like top 8, top 9.
Andy, let's talk about tight end. You mentioned Evan Ingram there in Denver. We talked about Kelsey a little bit, Brock Bowers earlier when we were discussing the Raiders. I think that in the past, you were seeing guys that you knew were a lock at the position, guys like Kelsey going as early as the first round. I don't see people doing that with Brock Bowers just yet. How do you approach drafting your tight ends, knowing that it's kind of like Bowers and Laporta and who else?
Well, it's also Trey McBride, and Trey McBride is the reason that I don't think we're seeing Brock Bowers necessarily in the first round, because there's an argument for the first round draft status when we have somebody who is so dominant at his position. Like, think of the best years of Travis Kelce. In the best years of Travis Kelce, he's doubling up nearly every tight end in the player pool, right? There might be 3 or 4 guys that he didn't double up in his best years. And that's an insane positional edge. That's the kind of thing that wins you leagues, that puts you in the playoffs almost single-handedly. I don't think we're going to get that from Brock Bowers. And part of the reason, even though he's coming off a historic season, Trey McBride was exactly as good. We just get a couple more touchdowns out of McBride. I mean, that guy's in line for 90, 95, 100 catches this year. And the players behind him, George Kittle tied to a great offense, still a wonderful player. He's going to score like crazy. Like, it's just a deep top tier at tight end. So it's no disrespect to Bowers that he's not going in the first round, second round. It has more to do with how good the next 5 tight ends are. And we don't often see this. Like, the history of the tight end position in fantasy is that there is one clear dominant player. It's Gronk, it's Kelsey, it's Antonio Gates, it's Gonzalez. You can go back all the way. You can go back decades with that. But we don't have that right now, and it's made the position a little bit easier to draft.
Andy, one offense that I personally and many others have gotten burned on over the last few years being the Atlanta Falcons. We see a lot of talent there. But Arthur Smith hasn't been there in a while. Kirk Cousins is still there, but something's gone wrong if he's touching a football here. How does this offense look now with Michael Penix at quarterback?
I didn't completely love Penix at the end of last season, but I didn't completely hate it either. And it seems like he's having a good camp. Seems like people are excited about him down there. I get it. He's also he's pretty mature. He's on the older side for a second year player, right? So he's coming into being about as good as he's ever going to get. At really, really mature, got a great arm. When he has a good base to throw from, he can sling it. He's pretty fun. They've also got Drake London. Drake London is great, and they have, it's almost like Saquon Barkley was obviously a highlight machine last year. It put up historic numbers, was terrific. Man, the experience of watching Bijan Robinson each week was just an absolute joy. Like Atlanta Falcons games were weirdly one of my favorite. That was a great rewatch absolutely every week, because he did 2 or 3 things each week that are just that they are not in the toolbox for nearly every runner in NFL history. He was just cartoonishly good sometimes, and he is incredible. If you want to take Bijan Robinson at the top of your draft, I never even blink. Of course, he's exactly that good. He could be the RB1. He's probably my favorite to be the RB1 by the end of the season. I just think he's phenomenal. So Atlanta, pretty dangerous. And I think Michael Penix, the offensive environment is good enough that Penix as your second quarterback in a super flex, I'll sign off on that. I think there's a lot of hope for that offense.
Andy, we were at Bills camp earlier this week, and Jim Miller from NFL Radio was there. We had the chance to talk to him. We talk to him every year, and every year I ask him, much like I ask you to humor the Bears fan in me, and tell me what you saw when you were at Bears camp. Jim Miller gave me a scouting report on Caleb Williams that makes me want to crawl into a hole. He said he can't play. He can't play quarterback. He has no command of the offense. Tyson Bagent looks better than Caleb Williams right now. Now, you're closer to the flame than I am, and you're probably hearing more, getting more coverage there being local than Jim Miller is traveling all over the country and seeing different training camps. Please talk me off the ledge and tell me it's going to be okay for Caleb and the Bears offense this year for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is that nothing is ever as good as the buzz that you're hearing, and nothing is ever as bad as like the negative buzz that you're hearing. I get it, like, you know, camp is weird, right? Because there are plenty of players across the NFL. I was just listening to this, like Cam Ward throwing a bunch of interceptions at camp, but they love it because he learned something from every interception. He's talking to the players that picked it off, whatever. Caleb Williams throws an interception at camp and it is doom and gloom and, you know, phone lines lighting up across Chicago sports radio. And that's just the nature of being a Bears fan and being a Chicago fan, I guess. I get it. But listen, the other exciting thing about this is we actually have a head coach who is clearly bringing a level of accountability to this team that has not existed in a while, and clearly did not exist in the Eberflus era, right? Because Ben Johnson, and I'm sure this is some of what Jim Miller's referring to, Ben Johnson's pulling them off the field. Like day one of camp, they can't get lined up. He pulls the first team offense off the field and makes them watch, you know, and that's the sort of thing that just has not been happening. The other day, he pulls Luther Burton out of drills, right? Because he was slow to line up or aligned in the wrong spot. Like that sort of thing is happening. We didn't get a lot of those reports. And this is a team that really needed a taskmaster and somebody to sort of keep everybody on schedule and to keep everybody. And like, I don't know, it's going to create some painful moments. It's going to create some moments where, you know, players are facing a level of accountability that they haven't in a while. And we need Caleb to be able to just take that coaching. And if he can, I don't know. I saw that guy play in college. I know what he's capable of. I saw his best plays last year, and they were as good as any rookie quarterbacks. So I'm pretty optimistic about it. I mean, they have, you know, they've patched the offensive line to the best extent they could. They have a bunch of talent in the receiving core. I like Burden. I like Colston Loveland a lot. So again, it's one of those teams where everything's new. A lot of stuff is new, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But man, it's easy to imagine that team coming together in October and things really clicking for Caleb, and then the offense kind of humming. So I don't know. I'm not as doom and gloom as I should be yet, given the fact that, you know, for several decades I've pinned my hopes to this team and they've let me down. But I don't know. This is a lot of talent and a coach who gets it.
Danger, will you take Andy's approach here, buddy?
I'm gonna.
Take it. Honestly, Andy, I think like any negative report, yeah, if you're the coach, you want to tear them down a little bit and rewire some things. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a bad practice or two. We like to overreact. Andy, it is the month of August. We need to do our homework. Tell everybody where they can get more of your content.
Oh, yeah, I really appreciate that. We are launching on Monday. We're going to have myself, Dalton Del Don, my former Yahoo colleague, we're launching a website called The Deep Shot. I'm really excited about it. All of our content is going to be there. Our rankings are going to be there. All the fantasy analysis that you're used to, all the good old school Yahoo stuff. We're gonna carry over to The Deep Shot. Also, I'm going to be collaborating with Chris Harris throughout the season. He's going to have a few features on the website. Harris and I are going to be podcasting every Wednesday, so you can check that out on the Harris Football Podcast. I'm pretty stoked for this season.
I love it, man. And you're talking about like partnering up with some great guys that have been doing this a long time, trusted names, who give a lot of great advice, and fantastic, man. I'm so excited to check out some of your work as we've become accustomed to tapping into your knowledge every fantasy football season, Andy. And it's great to have you back on with us here in the Sports Bar.
Oh, it's great to be back. Now we are well and truly back. Now that I'm in the Sports Bar.
Thank you, Andy. Have a good weekend.
You too, guys.
Yeah, there he is, Andy Behrens. Check out the new endeavor, The Deep Shot. I kind of like that with Dalton Del Don. Launching Monday. All right, so we got a little teaser there from Andy.
All right, that's perfect way to kind of tee it up, and there's so much we can chew on that.
Football is so back.
Football back.
It's back, baby. It's so back. Blue and the red scrimmage tonight at Highmark. We had the Hall of Fame game last night. Maybe you watched some of it. Maybe you had it on as background noise. There was a moment in the game that caught my attention. It wasn't Trey Lance. It wasn't one of the 5 Lion turnovers. It was a bit of technology that we've been hearing about that we finally saw on display, and I'll explain why the NFL still hasn't gotten it right when it comes to their use of technology. We'll get to that. We'll get to Bob Harris. We'll talk some more fantasy football in the 4 o'clock hour. Oh, let's give away some free tickets while we have a chance here, Gino.
Yeah.
Caller 5, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. We've got tickets for you to see Train and Edwin McCain a week from tonight at CMAC. Courtesy of the Bowery Presents. Tickets on sale at Ticketmaster.com or win them for free right now if you're caller 5. Again, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Good luck from the Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. This is The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester. WROC AM, WBEE HD2, and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
For the Bills today, practice out in Buffalo. It's actually a scrimmage. They call it the blue and the red. 5:30 tonight. Defensive end A.J. Epineza on his goal for the season.
It's my contract year. I want to put my best foot forward so that I can keep playing the game I love and just keep moving. You know, I want to just keep improving my game as a whole. I think I've done that every year, but just having that improvement mentality and just keeping that as my career goes on and just playing with a chip on my shoulder, I think I've made my living off of that.
Former Buffalo Bills receiver Amari Cooper announcing his retirement today. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Mike Parsons on X has requested a trade. On the Major League scoreboard, Reds over the Braves 3-2. The Cubs up on the Orioles 1-0. They're in the 8th. The Yankees releasing pitcher Marcus Stroman. New York tonight playing in Miami. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia in studio today as the Buffalo Bills training camp practice moves to Highmark. The return of the blue and the red getting underway in about an hour and a half. So here we are, studios at High Falls. Your phone lines are open at 866-4326. We appreciate you watching the stream as we do every afternoon from 3 until 6 on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, also on Twitch. And, of course, you can hear The Fan Rochester, not just in the Odyssey app, but also on iHeartRadio and TuneIn as well. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
Which sport has embraced technology the most? It's a tough one, right? Like, you could say the NFL because, really, they were the first to, all right, we got to come up with some sort of
I'm going to
replays.
throw you a curveball here. You ready? Cricket. Cricket has
Really?
had ball spotting technology for, I want to say, at least 20 years. That's the technology that exists that allows you to make sure that these games are officiated properly. It's not like it's new. It's been there. It's been out for a while. You saw it. I think we, as kind of like this domestic sports fans that we are, maybe you noticed it first with VAR in your soccer games or tennis. Certainly.
Tennis, like when you're watching the U.S. Open, there it is. I mean, way back in the day, that was the first one. You would just hear the beep. Now, hey, here it is, and we'll show you that the ball was out, clearly.
Yeah, well, NBC made sure last night during the Hall of Fame game that we all got a chance to see the NFL's new virtual measurement in action. And if you were watching the broadcast, what you likely thought was what you just said, Gene. Wow, that looks like the technology tennis and soccer have been using for years. That would be accurate. It looks very, very much like that technology. This tech basically eliminates the need for a chain gang, and the theory speeds up the game, and that's a good thing. You don't have to wait for the guys to, line up the chains and measure it all up. It does move a little bit faster and flawlessly, but it doesn't solve the NFL's problem. The NFL's problem isn't measuring whether or not that's a first down. The NFL's problem is spotting the freaking football. Do we need to say it louder, or do we need to remember what the AFC Championship game was? Spot the football correctly, because the measurement, I don't think, has ever been the problem.
The measurement? You can do it with the naked eye.
10
It's
yards
like,
is 10 yards.
10 yards is 10 yards.
Right.
This isn't your local high school. Let's count it off here with a with a tape measure. No. Like, how you can't put a chip in a ball at this point, Danger?
I guarantee you, that's what's frustrating about this. I'm sure the NFL could solve the ball spotting issue immediately, that there is technology that exists that would allow them to get the spot right, regardless of how many bodies are in a pile trying to stop Josh Allen on a quarterback sneak. There's right now, this to me feels like, hey, let's ooh and ah over this. And this is a distraction to fans. This is technology that they could have been using 10 years ago. But now they're going to distract us from the actual problem, which is spot the freaking ball.
But I would think you could just put a chip. What's the problem with that? Well, the answer, obviously, silly goose. It's the cost. Danger, what would improve the viewing experience for Bills fans at St. John Fisher University? Well, it would be if like Groundy Stadium had grass, and you could go there and you could watch, and there'd be more fans, more seats, and everybody could have a clearer view. Okay, we're talking about that on a small scale. I'm talking about, well, they practice on grass, but we can't put grass in NFL stadiums. But we'll do that for FIFA when the World Cup comes around.
Yeah, the expense.
Yeah, the expense.
It's always the expense.
It's the expense.
And with this technology or any technology, you can't just do it in one stadium. You can't just do it for one game. You have to apply it across every stadium for every game. And, yeah, there's an expense to that. But it's crazy to me that they trotted out this virtual measurement technology yesterday. I'm like, oh, there it is. Oh, that looks exactly like tennis. And, oh, wait a minute. This solves nothing. This does nothing for us other than speed up the game, which is good. Speeds it up. We don't have to wait for the chain gang. We don't have to time out while the officials, mark up the chain and make. All of that is good, but it doesn't detract from the real problem, which is spot the freaking ball correctly.
I am amazed that with so much pull with gambling on all sports these days, that we're not going to do everything in our power to present a product and a system to make sure that there's no question that was short of the first.
It would have been a great opportunity when legalized sports wagering, started to get more widespread. Take that money, all that revenue, that newfound revenue that the league has now with FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM and the like, to invest that back into the product and actually make it so that there is no doubt. Okay, we get it. That's where the ball is spotted. All right, now let's do the virtual measurement. All right, you're short. Great. Move on. Next play. It's they're so behind. It's laughable. And greedy. It's laughable. That was one of the more interesting things from last night's game that I noticed. I'm like, oh, okay. Because remember last year they tried it and it was just
they couldn't get it. It
was a mishap. Yeah. One mishap after that. It was just a disaster. So I like the virtual measurement. And I appreciate that it's going to speed things up and basically eliminate the need for a chain gang. You have it there for aesthetic purposes now more than anything. It still fails to solve the real problem, which is officials not knowing where to spot the football after a play, after a scrum. And boy, don't we recognize that. Don't we know what that looks like based on the last time we saw the Bills playing a meaningful game?
We've heard about this for weeks, a long time, and this is now going to happen, that we're going to have a merger here, or you could say an acquisition, whatever you want to say. ESPN is taking over NFL media. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And I would say it's not great, because what I want, I don't need a sanitized version. And I'm just wondering, is ESPN is going to lean more in the direction of, okay, we know this story, whatever it is, might embarrass an owner or a coach or whatever, Danger. I don't know if this is good for football fans that we have this merger going on, that one of the primary media partners of the league now is basically an owner in the league.
Who also has, by the way, a sports book with their name on it. I think that the NFL will always have control of their messaging. And so if you're watching the NFL Network, you know that they're only going to tell you what they want to tell you. And I always feel like that coverage was never, balanced. It was always biased. And I think it's going to continue to be that way. I think there's going to be stories that they don't talk about as much. I think that that's not going to change. I don't know that anything really changes here, except that the NFL might even have a bigger platform now with ESPN and Disney, a larger platform, a larger audience than they have with NFL Network, to further control their own narrative. The NFL, they're masters at it. They know exactly, like we were just talking about. We're going to give you this distraction. Forget about the real problem over here. They'll come up with distractions. They'll come up with ways to create their own storylines, create their own narratives, and now they have a bigger platform to do it with ESPN. I don't like it.
Yeah, the league is going to get, this is according to Andrew Marchand, 10% equity in ESPN. Wow. Okay, so if you're Rob Manfred, like, we don't get enough coverage, guess what? You own 10% of ESPN, you're going to get more NFL coverage, more than you ever have before. And the majority of people will be fine with that, but I think we want critical analysis. I think we want to
the reality is, I think the reality is, in the world that we live in now, if you want critical analysis, you know where to find it. If you just want background noise, like, when was the last time you actually watched SportsCenter? Like, SportsCenter to me is the ultimate background noise. It's always on. It's just like we have here every afternoon from 3 to 6. It's on, but I'm not really, watching it. It's just kind of on. And I think they recognize that that's what they are. Now, the NFL is just going to consume more of that real estate in your mind. If you are somebody like me who always has SportsCenter on running in the background, you're just going to see more of it, I think, but more of what they want to control. And look, something like today, where you have Micah Parsons, a star in the NFL, saying goodbye to the Dallas Cowboys, that's a story they got to cover, and they're going to cover it the way everybody's covering it. Nobody is saying that. I think everybody's kind of talking about it the same way.
Okay, let me pick out a story from this week that you and I think most reasonable people said that's not it. Christian Wilkins. Okay, so Christian Wilkins released by the Raiders, and there was a lot of, hey, he's not doing his rehab. We owe him a lot of money. Okay, you're gone. He's one of the top defensive tackles last year, signs with the Raiders for year number 1. That's $35 million the Raiders are saving. And then Adam Schefter reporting there was more to it, that Wilkins kissed some teammate on the head, and the teammate took exception to that. That's the story?
And then when Pete Carroll was pressed about it, he didn't have any comment. He didn't say anything. No comment. He went no comment.
He can do that from the standpoint of whatever happened, he wasn't there. And
sure.
he could have gone that direction, like, I just showed up, I'm ready to talk about. But to me, to say no comment means I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I'm just going to say no comment. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Right.
Again.
So that's example number 1. What really happened? And you can read things online. You can see highlights of Christian Wilkins doing things you shouldn't do on a football field, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that merger. Look, I'm a junkie. You're a junkie. We can't get enough NFL. We'll get more NFL on a larger platform, but it'll also give the NFL a larger platform to control their own narrative the way they love to do. Football is family, after all.
Yes, it is.
Football is family to the point where my daughter is joining my fantasy football league, Gino, and you're going to be a part of this too. And she's asking me a lot of questions, and I like that she's asking me questions. She's turning 21 on Monday. Mm-hmm. So I figure, okay, you're legal. I can let you into the inner circle here, and we'll gladly take your money. She already paid her dues. I'm proud of her. But she's asking questions now. I've got to give her the backstory of the name of the league. I've got to give her the backstory of all the managers in the league. I got to tell her everything.
Oh, no. Dude,
I'm putting myself at a competitive disadvantage here too.
Yeah, it's a little guy talk.
It is a little bit.
Yeah,
it is a little bit.
You're gonna have to come up with some alternate narrative.
I've shared the story of how we came up with the name of our fantasy football league. I think multiple times to everybody in the league. I think everybody in the league understands it. It's going to take a little bit of finesse to share the story with my 21-year-old.
Danger is a football champ.
Danger is a football champ.
Danger is a football champ.
DIAFC.
Yeah, Danger is a football champ.
Yep. We got to get to Bob Harris. Speaking of fantasy football, let's get you ready for your drafts. We kind of opened up a new season here of fantasy football, and this during the training camp season, it's often referred to as drinking from a fire hose season. Everybody's learning information. We're learning about these players, these teams, these offenses. We'll start to see some preseason games next weekend that actually we'll have a little bit more meat on the bone than what we saw last night at the Hall of Fame game. So Bob Harris, one of our favorites of football guys, will be stopping by the sports bar next. We'll have a fantasy football conversation here on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Rochester. Does your morning need a jolt of sports excitement? Tune in to Maggie and Perloff on 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan Rochester. It's the wake-up call your snooze button has been dreading. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
It's the blue and red practice or scrimmage at Highmark Stadium. 5:30 tonight. The gates just opening. Rookie TJ Sanders looking forward to this.
I'm actually really ready for that. I was talking to DC when I first got here. He was like, we got like a little scrimmage type deal in the stadium during camp. Like, you're going to love that. And the closer and closer we get into it, it's like I'm juiced.
Former Buffalo Bills receiver Amari Cooper announcing his retirement today. News out of Dallas, and it's not good if you're a Cowboy fan. Defensive end Micah Parsons has requested a trade. On the Major League scoreboard, Reds over the Braves 3-2. The Cubs shutting out the Orioles 1-0. Yankees tonight playing in Miami. The team today releasing pitcher Marcus Stroman. Mets tonight hosting the Giants. The Rochester Red Wings continuing their series in Charlotte. Gene Battaglia with the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Let's continue talking some fantasy football here. Break the seal as we got redraft league drafts happening throughout the course of the month of August, leading into Labor Day and start of the regular season. Bob Harris, Football Guys, one of our favorites, joining us now in the sports bar. Bob, great to catch up with you. Glad you're able to make some time for us here. We know how busy this time of year is for you. And well, we brought you on because we wanted to get all of your reaction from last night's game. We know how important the Hall of Fame game is in determining draft strategy. How are you, Bob?
I'm fantastic. That Trey Lance to Will Dissly opening touchdown is something I will cherish forever. Big Dissly guy here. Fire the dismissal, my signature line. So, no, it was like, look, I'm not here to pretend this was a meaningful, fantastic game, but I am here to contend it was a game, and it marks the start of something much bigger, an entire winter of weekly football. There's no more escape, people. We're in it.
Yeah, and we have all these reports, and everybody looks great, or maybe somebody doesn't look good. So as we're reading and we're seeing these reports, what's your general advice in terms of when it comes to how to handle certain stories out of these training camps and how it applies to fantasy football?
Well, first, like everyone else, I am in the best shape of my career. I'm sure you guys are as well. It's that time of year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like you're going to hear a lot of things. Pay more attention to the negative than the positive. When you're hearing, especially about established players, people are not quick to criticize or, put down players or put themselves in that line. So it's worth paying attention to. Everybody is going to get positive reviews. Often you'll see quotes or comments, and they'll be based on questions that you did not hear. You'll just hear the quote or see the quote lauding some player or his possible role. And if you go back and check more closely, you'll find that this guy is going to be really great and, or whatever. And so just be mindful of that. But also, if you're doing this like me, I started drafting in February, people. Yes. You can do that because it is like lifting weights. You want to keep the draft muscles going, right? You want to be ready when you get to the drafts that matter most. But also it helps me follow along the string of data that goes with it. And so you're following this all as like a continuum of information. And everything you're hearing today, don't look down the drinking straw, dial back and put it in context with what you've been hearing up to this point. What did you hear in OTAs? Does that match what you heard post-draft? Does that match what you heard at the scouting combine? And that's kind of how I do it. I follow up on things and see if what I'm hearing now, how that stacks up in comparison to what I've been told all along. You start paying attention to things that are changing or evolving. Or you can look at Amari Hampton. Let's go back to last night's game, right?
Yeah.
Like, a little skeptical when they drafted him. Like he looks like a great prospect, right? But unlike Ashton Genty in Las Vegas, who steps into what appears to be a very robust role, Hampton looked like he was going to be sharing with Najee Harris. And I've kind of been taking it that way until Najee Harris gets in a 4th of July accident, has an eye injury, still not on the field. He's falling behind in understanding. He's been in the NFL a while, hasn't been in this offense before. So he's falling behind Amari Hampton, who, okay, let's look a little more closely. A couple 1,500 yards from scrimmage seasons, a couple 15 touchdown seasons, these big bodies. Fits this Greg Roman offense. It's going to be run heavy. Maybe this is looking better. And so you evolve with that information. Try not to overreact to it. Like I don't have him pushed up there against Ashton Genty yet in the first round, but he is climbing a little bit because the circumstances have changed. Same with Josh Palmer. Everybody draft. No, But realistically, you start hearing things about players as we're sitting out there that maybe the roles are going to be a little more significant than we think, and you make minor adjustments. Don't go crazy and start drafting Joshua Palmer as Buffalo's wide receiver 1.
Yeah, okay, let's stay in Buffalo for a second, Bob, because we were trying to figure out what are the sure things within this offense. And sure, James Cook had a great season last year, but we hear that he's falling in some drafts as low as the 3rd or 4th round, which I think is pretty good value. In Buffalo, probably a little bit higher because you have to pay the Bills tax. Is Josh Allen the one sure thing in this offense when you factor in how they like to spread the ball around and the everybody eats mentality they adopted last season?
I think this kind of offense, the way they run it, yes. I mean, the delivery system for all this production is the piece you want. And I do think James Cook is a value at the price he's going at now. He's not priced in like he scored second most touchdowns in the NFL, right? Or rushing touchdowns in the NFL anyway. And because those are not persistent stats. And there's also another very good back there who scores a lot of touchdowns by the name of Josh Allen. But I think you look at Allen and you kind of put things into context. I look at his finishes over the course of his career. Throw out 2018, 2019, he was quarterback 6 in fantasy. 2020, number 1. 2021, number 1. 2022, number 2. 2023, number 1. 2024, number 2. That's the kind of consistent track record you can hang your hat on. So yes, when I'm drafting a quarterback early, I'm not against anyone drafting Lamar Jackson. His outcomes have varied more. There's just, and I get it. The upside maybe is higher. You look at him as more of a rushing asset. Could he hit that 1,000 yards? Sure. But I still think the consistent production over the course of time is what I'm more interested in. So if I'm getting a little bit of a discount on Josh Allen as compared to Lamar Jackson this year, then I'm all about that. And if I'm getting a little more of a discount to Jaden Daniels, I might be for that, but there's not as much to hang my hat on, right? So these are the things we're weighing out as we're trying to assess value. Maybe I look at Joe Burrow, who has scored many points as everybody down the stretch, and see him going in round 5, or Bo Nix, who is throwing as many touchdowns as Joe Burrow from week 10 on, and who's going as quarterback 8. These are the comparisons we're making. In Buffalo, though, I do think the quarterback is the centerpiece of this offense and always will be. I do like the value on Khalil Shakir an awful lot. If there was a guy who is going to be the kind of receiving asset in the points per reception league that keeps you from getting a 0 every week, he's that guy. It's a solid role. It doesn't have a lot of scoring upside, or hasn't. But again, touchdowns aren't persistent. That luck could change. So I think there's a lot to like there, but it's hard to pick which one it is. Green Bay's receiving core is similar to this. It's like playing whack-a-mole. Somebody's going to have a good game. You pick who it's going to be every week, and you're a better man than me.
Yeah, Bob Harris, our guest here, as a question here. And again, we don't like to use cheat sheets or anything, or the computer telling you who the next man up. The fun part of this, let's come up with our own valuations and our own values. And two older guys that the answer is we'll draft them where the value is. I don't know where the value is, because you can make an argument that one of these years it's not going to go well for Derrick Henry, but he keeps proving us wrong. And it has gone wrong for Christian McCaffrey, but what if he's healthy? So, Bob, how do you place a value on Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey?
So I would throw, let's go ahead and throw Devontae Adams and, just like older players, a guy got on a new team, but, they're going to places where they're going to have a role. And I think, to me, the trade-off between age, first of all, we need to acknowledge we're not playing, in an era when players were all washed up at 27. They're taking better care of themselves. They're investing in masseuses and chefs and trainers, and they're working all year round. So I think we're just, for me, I'm drafting opportunities and clear paths to workload, and those come with established roles. Those roles usually come over time, or age, I guess, is with age. And so I understand the concerns. Father Time is undefeated, but scoreboard still counts what aging players do on the field. And so, you look at Henry, 1,921 yards at age 30 last year. It was admittedly an outlier, but also hit 21 miles an hour twice. That's, more than Tyreek Hill, right, on the season. And it's a run-heavy offense that gives him tons of opportunities. So I think there's something we said, and that's more what I'm looking for. Look, I'm looking for signs that a player's falling off. Am I a little worried about, let's say, Aaron Jones? Perhaps I am. They added another piece there in Minnesota in the form of Jordan Mason, a player who they up close in a game early in the season, light them up for San Francisco. And so I think that's going to be a little more of a split. Maybe I can't count on the same kind of workload. So there are nuances to this, but I think for the most part, I'm looking for established roles, established workloads, and clear paths to opportunities, because having the ball in your hand is how you score in fantasy football.
Bob, as we're watching preseason football here over the course of the next few weeks, we know some teams take it a little bit more seriously than others in terms of how many reps they give their starters and who they give opportunities to. But to me, the preseason is also a time where if you're watching the games and you let the games come to your eyes, you can find moments that look like outliers. And the one that I'll always remember was Patrick Mahomes' first full season as a starter in Kansas City in the preseason, going deep to Tyreek Hill against the Atlanta Falcons. And my eyes told me that looked different. That looked like it was going to be something, and the rest is history. Are there any scenarios or situations like that you can project this preseason? Is there something that you're excited to see the possibility of this preseason that could make that light bulb in your head go off and be like, aha, there's a cheat code right there?
So I'm going to say I've seen, and like this is something I'm going to preach against doing, but it's something we're all guilty of. You're out there on your platform of choice looking at the clips that are being posted out there, and you see Dak Prescott just zing a ball right into the little hole in the net, and you see him hitting George Pickens, and you remember, oh, wow, we're a couple seasons away from a 36-touchdown season. Oh, and a 37-touchdown season. And you see players that, for me, it's more like seeing guys that have been previously productive or coming off 4 years, because I'm looking for the discounts. Old meaning cheap. You guys know me.
Yep.
Looking to get by for what I can. So I'm looking for players that are maybe coming off down years or in situations where people aren't as eager. And so I'm a little guilty of seeing those things. I don't know if there's a single player. Like, I'm big on Devontae Adams. I mentioned him. I think he's going to a great place. I think people overplay his age. Matthew Stafford has supported a pair of, wide receiver 2 level or higher players since he's been around 3 or 4 seasons. Also, Devontae Adams has yet to be less than a wide receiver 14. I know Puka Nacua is there and we're concerned, but I think just sometimes the circumstances. So when I have these things that I've these happy stories I've told myself, I talk about this every year. You want to draft players, you tell yourself happy stories about them. If I see something that confirms my happy story that I've been telling myself, I'm as much of a sucker for that as anybody else.
Yeah, we're talking to Bob Harris here. When you have a new head coach or a new coordinator, let's just make this easy, the new head coach, and I'm looking at Ben Johnson, who ran one of these great fantasy offenses in Detroit. Now he goes to Chicago. I mean, poof, does all of a sudden Caleb Williams and everybody else, do we start to see an increase? What are your thoughts, whether it's Johnson or somebody else that is coming to a new environment? How long, generally speaking, does that take?
It doesn't have to take long, right? I see. Well, let's look at Liam Cohen as well in Jacksonville. I think that's another example of an offense that's worked. And when we've seen it distribute, like, it took a little time in Carolina, but maybe there's more work to do. But Dave Canales took that offense and took that approach. And as we came down the stretch last season, we had Bryce Young playing as fantasy's quarterback 6 from week 12 on, right? So something that had worked. I'll say Ben Johnson seems to be following a similar path. What did Dave Canales do? He bolstered the middle of the offensive line, worked on the rushing game. We'll probably see that in Chicago, where they've already bolstered the offensive line, and they're going to work on Caleb Williams. I would say, for me, when I see a coach like Ben Johnson, who's been one of the more creative offensive play callers in the league, and in like 3 straight years has fielded one of the most dangerous and prolific scoring offenses in the league, I look at the pieces, I see Caleb Williams, and here's a guy last year with Shane Waldron as the coordinator. He struggled. They made the change, I think, week 10. Weeks 11 through 14 with Thomas Brown, all due respect to him, not a renowned offensive whiz-bang guy like Ben Johnson. We saw Caleb Williams have 3 top 5 finishes. He was quarterback 3, as high as quarterback 3. That guy is there. I'm going to take some chances on that with Ben Johnson, and we'll see. Rome Odunze, I'm old enough to remember when he was one of the top 3 rookie wide receivers off the board last year, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors, and things didn't work out as a rookie. But do I think he cannot maybe figure things out this year with Ben Johnson? Yes. And I look at a rookie like Luther Burden, who might have a resemblance or the playing style of Amon-Ra St. Brown, who wasn't a high draft pick in Detroit, yet came around and turned into a fantasy monster. So, yes, I'm intrigued by, I want to build on those past successes of coaches and try to project that success onto the players in his current offense. Sam Laporta, one of the fantastic rookie tight end seasons in fantasy history. Hello, Colston Loveland. I see you, sir.
Yeah. Bob, what about offenses that you want to grab a share of that, you mentioned Detroit, and I don't know what that offense looks like with no Ben Johnson there, but you've still got some really, really talented pieces in that offense. What about a team like Tampa Bay? Certainly Kansas City is intriguing. Are there a list of offenses that I haven't mentioned that you have to grab a share of before you exit the draft?
Cincinnati. I talked about Joe Burrow a little bit coming on strong, being dominant down the stretch last year. What's different this year in Cincinnati? Joe Burrow is getting in a full training camp. We haven't seen that since his rookie year. Getting in a full training camp, not just for himself, but with all the pieces. Nobody holding out, everybody on hand. They tend to get off the slow starts before they gain momentum. I think that it's reasonable to think that they're going to get off to a faster start this year. Like a lot of the pieces there, Chase Brown's still a reasonable value. Jamar Chase, you're not getting unless you have the first pick overall in your draft. But T. Higgins, he's out there, and Mike Gesicki's available well into the tight end 2 stratosphere. But a lot of the Baltimore Ravens also very interested in the top pieces there. I want to say, I'm going to be interested in Jacksonville as soon as they sort it out. But as long as Brian Thomas Jr. is rolling, I'm going to have a share of that. But I think there's some upside there. You mentioned Tampa Bay. We keep thinking there's going to be regression coming at some point. They keep losing coaches, yet the next guy steps up. This time it's Josh Brizard, who was the passing game coordinator. I think Baker Mayfield can probably continue cobbling it together with guys like Mike Evans. We'll see when Chris Godwin gets on the field, but they've added some pieces there in Emeka Egbuka, the rookie, who looks fantastic in camp. So I want some of that offense. I want some of the Philadelphia offense. But, man, once you get past Barkley, Jalen Hurts is the next answer. But he threw 100 fewer passes last year than he did the year before. That's got to be a limiting factor on his receiving assets. And so maybe I look more to Washington for some of the other assets there. I think there are a lot of reasonably priced pieces in the Washington offense, not named Jaden Daniels because he's not reasonably priced. But that looks like an ascendant offense to me. And same with Denver. There are pieces there. Kansas City, I'm going to want those. The Raiders, suddenly slightly more interesting across the board. You've still got Brock Bowers, who's going to go as the tight end 1 in pretty much every draft you're in. Jacoby Myers is going to be an overlooked asset, but there's some young pieces in that receiving core that are interesting, and Geno Smith kind of brings it all together. He's definitely an upgrade at quarterback, and we'll see what Chip Kelly does. And so, man, there's so many players I'm interested in. Well, I'm interested in every player at the right price. You guys know that.
Yeah.
But that's the key, right? I mean, even mining bad offenses, I'm not drilling down as deep. I'm skimming the surface. But there are players in bad offenses. I talk about Carolina. We can go back, a year ago or 2 years ago when Bryce Young was like the worst first overall pick ever. And Adam Thielen was out there putting up wide receiver 1 numbers for almost the entirety of the season. I think he finished as wide receiver 18, right? But then we go Malik Neighbors last year, playing with 4 different quarterbacks and still putting up dominant numbers. Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville over the final 3 weeks of the season was wide receiver 1 in points per game. He was doing that with Mac Jones. So, there's players available in all kinds of offenses that you should not shy away from. That one of my soapbox issues is not letting suspect quarterback play scare you off talented receiving assets. Some of the ones I laid out are just the most recent. It's a long history of that kind of success.
Bob, I thought, maybe this will all become clearer as we do more homework. I always thought the tight end position was kind of clear. Hey, do you want to pay the price on Gronk? Do you want to pay the price on Kelsey? And now you mentioned Bowers going tight end 1. Or is that enough to like again the value there? I'm thinking maybe he goes too high.
Pretty expensive.
Yeah, what if it's not Bowers, how would you evaluate this position overall? Who might be the next Bowers that we should be paying attention to here in this August?
So one thing about Bowers, and we'll say the same of Saquon Barkley, we could probably say the same about Jamar Chase. When we're buying those players, we are paying an historic premium. They're coming off historic seasons. The problem with that is historic seasons are historic because they hardly ever happen, right? So you're paying that extra price because they had such fantastic years. Trey McBride probably had every bit as good a year, at least in terms of workload as anybody in the league. Just the touchdowns weren't there. So him going around later interests me. But George Kittle's the sweet spot at tight end. There's a guy that's going to give you top. I mean, he was top in the league in points per game last year. A guy that, as long as he's been healthy, if he plays a full season, he's a top 5 tight end every year. So I think getting him in round 4 or so, that feels like a sweet spot. If I miss on him, heck, I can wait forever. But maybe not forever, but like I can wait till tight end 9 or 8 or 9 and get Evan Ingram. I'm happy with that. I think Mark Andrews is going to be overlooked, especially with Isaiah Likely's injury. Remember, Mark Andrews scored 11 touchdowns last year. It was a horrible finish. We remember the last thing we see. Think back a little further, people. Week 1 was horrible for him. After that, he started coming on. And he was dominant for most of the season, just had some bad plays. You guys remember the worst of it with firsthand knowledge. But there's a ton of tight ends that are available. I want to say outside the tight end 1 range, you can be looking at guys like, I don't know, I'll say Zach Ertz going as tight end 17. He was tight end 11 last year. I mean, he put up great numbers. Hunter Henry, going to be a solid play. You can get them very late. So if you miss out on the top tier, I know we say this every year, you can stream a tight end. You can. But be mindful that you probably want to be ahead of the curve of other people, maybe jump out in front of them and grab some of these guys, maybe stack them at the end of your roster so you don't have to battle for people for them on the waiver wire.
Bob, as far as rookies are concerned, I'm wondering if there's a rookie that is intriguing to you in terms of what they could actually provide a surprise performance from one of these rookies. We've talked about some of them, but I think, if Ashton Genty is a top 5 running back, I don't know that we'd necessarily be surprised by that. Is there anybody out there kind of flying under the radar here heading into camp that could surprise us this year from the rookie class?
So I don't think Tyrone McMillan is going to be a surprise, but he looks very good in the things I've seen. Amari Hampton no longer a surprise now that Najee Harris has been out. I think it could end up being someone that, Caleb Johnson of Pittsburgh seems like a guy who, fits the mold of what they want to do. He's going to be splitting with Jalen Warren to start out. That was R.J. Harvey until J.K. Dobbins showed up in Denver, right? That was the guy that was everyone's darling. Looked like he had a clear path to workload. Then he made it through OTAs. They made it through minicamp. Then right after minicamp, they signed J.K. Dobbins. I'm guessing they feel there's a reason. My Football Guy's colleague, Cecil Lammy, who covers the Broncos on a daily basis, thinks Dobbins is there to be the 1A to Harvey's 1B. So you start looking at other places. I like Cam Scatterbo. I think he's in a good spot, and I think his running style fits the Giants. It's a lousy offense. I'm not drafting him as a frontline player, but I want him for some depth as a guy that maybe can get something done. And then we use the famous Sesame Street formula for fantasy, and one of these things is not like the other in Dallas. It's Jaden Blue. And you see the plotting Javonte Williams. You see Miles Sanders. I think we've seen a lot of him. Haven't seen a lot of Jaden Blue, who has that sub 4.4 speed, a little bit small, but has a little something that the other players there don't. So if we're looking for surprise like that, I think everyone's thinking about Bashal Tutin in Jacksonville as well, the guy that lit up the combine with the fantastic numbers. But there may be some other guys out there that are going to get something done. I think you could take some shots on guys. Mason Taylor looks like he has a clear path to workload for the Jets. You're not going to have to pay for him. He's kind of a freebie. Matthew Golden, I say, there's nobody has established themselves as a lead piece in Green Bay in the receiving core. Here comes Matthew Golden, a first-round pick. When was the last time they did that?
Right.
First-round pick on a wide receiver, and we have no Christian Watson. So here we have this high-speed guy who can get down the field. Maybe he can make some plays. I'll be taking shots on players like that I think are going to have some opportunities. The rookie tight ends, the top-tier rookie tight ends, Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland all have some shares of. And I'm pretty keen on Luther Burden III, too. I think he might have a clear path to workload. And plus, the news on him has not been great, right? It's kind of been pulled off the field and chewed out and had some injury issues. I think he's an ideal fit for that Ben Johnson offense. So we'll see how that goes. I know a lot of people on Travion Henderson with the Patriots. Sounds like he's going to be a great receiving asset, but I talked to Tom King from the Nashville Telegram last week, and he's saying, man, Ramondre Stevenson showed up slimmed down. I hardly recognized him. He means business, so that's going to be a split for at least some period of time. The Cleveland rookie, it's hard to deal with him because he's in trouble. I don't want to, put the spotlight on his off-the-field issues, but, he's undraftable right now. So are you drafting Jerome Ford or the other rookie, Dylan Sampson, like his running back 50s? There's so many things going on with the rookies this year that I think you can find them at every level. And we've seen, it's no longer a case where you have to fear a rookie just evaporating. Rookies show up And it doesn't always matter where the draft capital is. It matters what the opportunities are. And I'm not even bringing up Travis Hunter because I don't know what the heck he is.
Yeah.
Is he a defensive back? Is he a wide receiver? I think it's going to be hard to know week to week. So unless you're in an individual defensive player, an IDP league where you can line him up at cornerback every week and get the receiving points, you might be overspending on him as a wide receiver.
Bob, one guy who's not a rookie, but we really don't know, and I'm fascinated. I thought it was so ballsy what Minnesota did. Hey, you had this great season. Sam Darnold, thank you very much. It's almost like they treated him like a fantasy asset. They sold high on him, but what do we think of J.J. McCarthy? I mean, I'm fascinated to get your thoughts on what do you think this Vikings offense could look like this year?
So I don't think you have to invest so much in J.J. McCarthy as you do in Kevin O'Connell, this offensive ecosystem and a great supporting cast. Like every quarterback who plays there, including Sam Darnold, has been fantastic. But I can go back, Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Darren Hall, Sam Darnold, Sean Mannion, all these guys that have kind of filled in since Kirk Cousins. They've all had measures of success for various lengths of time. And none of them hurt Justin Jefferson. You go back to when Cousins went down with the torn Achilles in Week 8 of 2023. Jefferson came back from a hamstring injury in Week 14 that year, playing with Dobbins, Hall, and Mullins. He was wide receiver 3 overall on that span, further enhancing my statement that don't let bad quarterback play scare you off. But it's more about the offensive ecosystem that Kevin O'Connell has put together there. It seems like whoever he's got, it's ideally suited for quarterbacks. It seems like a quarterback he handpicked. So I'm enthusiastic. I know the Football Guy's projection is very high on him, even higher than I am on him. I think we have him as high as quarterback 12 or have had him this week. You're drafting him as quarterback 19 right now. Those are the kind of average draft position inefficiencies I'm looking to exploit and leverage later in drafts. I think he's in a good position. Great supporting cast. Jefferson, Jordan Addison, likely to face a suspension, but he'll be back maybe 3 games. TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, the guys I mentioned before. So there's a lot to like there. And it's not all J.J. McCarthy. It's the notion that his coach and GM thought enough to draft him and thought they could turn him into the thing that they turn every quarterback into. So I'm on board with that.
Bob, it's great hearing your voice. It's great getting back into the groove with fantasy football, and the work that you're doing every day at Football Guys is outstanding. The Draft Dominator, tell me it's back. Tell us a little bit about what we can do here to prepare for our drafts coming up later on this month.
It's back. We've got tons of tools and cool stuff. The Draft Dominator, if you have not used it, just syncs up with your leagues, gives you pick-by-pick assistance and lets you know who you should be taking. All of this based on the great Joe Bryant and his value-based drafting theory. An article I first published by him in 1996, by the way.
Wow. Every
draft strategy out there, whether you play zero RB, a heavy wide receiver, they are all some variants of value-based drafting. So you can check that out. We've got Rate My Team. We've got a new AI assistant coach that's going to help you find content. It's not going to create things. It's going to find the content already created by our great staff and help you use it and leverage it to your advantage. So tons of great stuff there. We've got a magazine, too. Go to the site and check it out. It's still available. Limited supply left. Big 9x12. Beautiful copy. Great articles by all the Football Guys staffers that you love. Sigmund Bloom, Adam Harstead, Matt Waldman, myself, Dave Kluge, and others, and it's kind of a collector's piece, so I think everyone will enjoy it. Check it out at Football Guys.
Great content, Bob. Always appreciate your time, and have fun this draft season.
Can't wait. We're in draft season. We're almost through it, man. It's been on for years.
For us, I guess. Yeah.
I love it, Bob. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
You got it. Bob Harris, check out his work at Football Guys. Football Guys does a great job, and that Draft Dominator tool is fantastic, man. I've used it in the past, and can't say enough great things about the work that they're doing over there as far as getting you ready for another fantasy football season.
Josh Allen has not come out yet, but what I can report to you from some of these pictures that are coming out from Bills practice, they opened up the gates, but since there's no assigned seating, it's like the running of the bulls. Fans running down. Danger, when we show up every day and they have the same security people year in and year out, very nice woman. Her name's Sandy. I told Sandy, I hear your voice in my head at night. No running, yelling at kids. Meanwhile, everybody's running down the stairs there. So it's a funny piece of video. If you see it.
I met Liz, one of the volunteers there at St. John Fisher for Buffalo Bills training camp. And Liz has been behind us in charge of kind of keeping keeping fans from crossing the bike racks that are set up to kind of secure the perimeter there. And it was, boy, yesterday felt like it was a little bit crazy as far as the pandemonium to try and get autographs. And I can only imagine that when you're at the stadium, the closer you get, the more you have a chance. It's a rush of people.
I talked to one dad with his son, and they come every year, and they got shut out yesterday. And their strategy, if you didn't know it, was like before, hey, just do the ring around Groundy Stadium. I don't know why the Bills stopped doing that. Like, they don't have that open to fans. So really, if you don't have a good position right out of the get-go, it was more crowded yesterday. Is that fair to say?
Felt like it was, yeah. Maybe it was because it wasn't as hot as it's been at camp, and there was more bodies there. But certainly, this blue and the red scrimmage will be well attended, being that it's the first event of the last season at Highmark Stadium, and also, I don't know, this team is pretty good. I think a lot of people want to show support and see Josh Allen and everybody in action for at least one night here in Buffalo. So we'll keep you updated on whether or not Josh emerges from the tunnel with one of our chosen helmets. We'll go through our draft again here, the Josh Allen draft helmet, or helmet draft, I should say.
These are fun problems, right? What helmet is he going to come out with? Oh my gosh!
Yeah, we got a round of shots coming up. We have last call. Yeah, keep this number in mind, 866-4FAN, not just for last call, but if you want to win some free tickets. Right now, we've got a free pair of tickets for you to see the Outlaw Music Festival a week from tonight. That's at Darien Lake Amphitheater, courtesy of Live Nation. 866-4326, caller 5 wins a free pair of tickets to see the Outlaw Music Festival. Your tickets are on sale now at livenation.com, or you can just win them for free. Again, 866-4326. Good luck from the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. 7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Gates are open. Players going on the field right now. It's the blue and red scrimmage at Highmark Stadium. A.J. Epineza on his goals.
It's my contract year. I want to put my best foot forward so that I can keep playing the game I love and just keep moving. You know, I want to just keep improving my game as a whole. I think I've done that every year, but just having that improvement mentality and just keeping that as my career goes on and just playing with a chip on my shoulder, I think I've made my living off of that.
Former Buffalo Bills receiver Amari Cooper announcing his retirement today. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Micah Parsons has requested a trade. On the Major League scoreboard, Reds over the Braves 3-2. The Cubbies shutting out the Orioles 1-0. Yankees today releasing pitcher Marcus Stroman. The team in Miami tonight. The Mets open a series at home against the Giants. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Welcome to Happy Hour in the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia ready to start your sports weekend. The return of the blue and the red happening right now at Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. We return to St. John Fisher for Buffalo Bills training camp Monday afternoon. We appreciate you checking us out, however you may be doing so. Of course, locally at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, tune in, all places where you can listen to us on your mobile device. You can also catch our stream on our Twitch feed, on our YouTube channel. Find us at The Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you are there. Lots of fantasy football today, but let's talk about what's happening right now in Orchard Park, Gino.
Yeah, so what's happening right now in Orchard Park, I'm happy to report, Mike Danger, that Tyler Bass is seen on the field with warming up and kicking, which would suggest that he's back from
pelvic soreness. Pelvic soreness. Yeah, that's a new one. And I would imagine if you're a kicker, you would want your pelvis to be fully intact. You wouldn't want to deal with any pelvic soreness trying to kick a 60-yarder. So good to see Tyler Bass back on the field. I was worried because you got a preseason game here a week from Saturday, and you don't have another kicker on the roster.
You don't need a kicker. We're going to go for two every time.
Yes.
And you're like, we'll just have our punter just kind of squib kick it.
We don't kick. That's the Bills. That's the banner that they need hanging as they're going into the practice field every day at St. John Fisher. We don't kick. I like that.
Some team is going to try that at some point, Danger. We're still awaiting Josh Allen coming out onto the field, and this is the fun part of, one of the fun points of Bills camp. What helmet is Josh Allen going to wear? You and I did a draft. You had the first overall pick.
Now, can we review through the years here? Because this is something that he started doing at the return of the blue and the red, 4 or 5 years ago now?
This would be year 4 he's done this. So this was 2022, would have been the first time he went out with a red helmet. Oh, my gosh.
Or the classic Bills red helmet.
But this is a helmet that was just in the equipment room lying around from the Kelly era. They're like, okay, I'm going to put this on. And it
looked a little weird.
It looked a little dated, right. But it got everybody buzzing. Next year, a metallic blue. That looked fun.
Chrome blue, yeah.
Yeah. And then last year, a matte black, which, okay, I thought that
the
looked
red
sharp.
standing buffalo, yep.
So Danger and I, for fun today, let's kind of take our picks because just if you're new to this show, Danger and I like to have a bet on everything. We didn't bet a box of wine on this, but
I would say even money would go on my first pick, and that would be Josh wearing a white Bills helmet with the potato Bills logo that he designed for the new era. That's my number one pick in this draft.
If you're not familiar with the story, when these draft picks came in and they were just signed by the team, and it was somebody who said, "Hey, draw your team's logo." You can picture what the Bills logo looks like, but literally it looks like a potato with legs coming off of it.
Josh drew that.
Yeah, Josh actually drew that.
Josh drew what looks like a potato with some legs and a red stripe. And so now that is the logo that is adorning many new era caps. So I would say that I feel pretty confident that if Josh emerges from the tunnel with any helmet, it will be that white helmet with the Bills potato logo on it.
Apparently they're selling potato hats. Josh Allen is now a minority partner in New Era. He's some sort of investor where if you want to sell these hats, I would just suggest that I don't know necessarily where the relationship is between the Bills and New Era, seeing that New Era stopped paying the bill on the naming rights deal there, and now it's called Highmark, but New Era still has to pay the NFL licensing fees for this stuff. So, yes, I think that's your chalk pick on this. Then in this draft, I had the second and the third. I went with the silver helmet, just knowing, okay, we're hearing reports that maybe this is what the Bills will use as part of the nikification uniforms.
The silver like chrome?
Yeah, just silver, whatever.
Straight up silver. Chrome.
Straight up silver.
Okay.
And then Zubaz, because that's my personal wish there. I want to see the Bills and Zubaz at some point.
I feel like the Bills logo would get lost on a Zubaz helmet. Like the Zubaz print, the Zubaz pattern that we see all over St. John Fisher with their banners and their signage. I feel like if you were to try to do a Bills logo on top of it, you wouldn't see the Bills logo. It would get completely lost. And if you just did the Zubaz print on the helmet, now I think you're teetering with looking like a red, white, and blue Cincinnati Bengals, which I don't know if that's the look you're going for either.
That's why maybe that wasn't a good choice with my second pick. Danger then went with his next two picks.
I said, what did I go with? I went with the white, right? If they go white with the silver logo, which is kind of the rumor that we had before they made it official that they were going to wear the red helmets on Week 18, the throwback red helmets.
You went with a blue mat.
And blue mat was my last one.
Yeah, and I went with the last pick, red chrome.
Okay.
I think red chrome, something like the University of Houston. I think the Texans had a red chrome at one point.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There's our picks for what Josh Allen will emerge from the tunnel. We'll find out here before we get off the air, I'm sure. I don't know. Do you think somebody will cover it? Do you think somebody will snap a picture of Josh getting out of the tunnel? I don't feel like he's gotten enough attention or people aren't really following him around, that he's not going to fly under the radar on this one.
Well, this is now, get used to this. This is the last, insert here, thing we'll ever experience at Highmark. The clock has started, folks, because this time next year, Highmark's not open. So this scrimmage next year will be at the new stadium. I'm going to make a bold prediction. 60,000 or whatever the capacity is.
For a practice.
For a practice.
Yeah.
But it's a practice where, okay, I want to go see this, what I've been hearing and reading about, and what I want to, maybe I can't afford tickets, but I can go to a practice.
So that's interesting. Yes, I think I agree with that. And when we hear Pete Goelli tell us that they're getting the keys or they're expecting to get the keys to the new stadium in July, we were speculating, okay, what's the first big event going to be at New Highmark Stadium? Is it going to be a concert? Maybe that happens.
I would think that would be fun.
You would have to turn it around pretty quickly, though, because it would really be limited to the month of July, and that's it, because it's August 1st right now, and they're practicing at Highmark Stadium. It could be just that, hey, maybe we'll get an event in here the following summer, and our first event for Highmark Stadium is this, the return of the blue and the red. And it is chaos. It is 60,000 people. It is every man for themselves trying to get in, to get a glimpse, and to see what the new stadium has to offer, all while watching their favorite team practice before they even play a down of preseason football.
I'm going to make we should be out there next year. That would be the one
where
we're going to do the show we're in the stadium, we're kind of, walking around doing the thing.
No, it'd be a lot of fun for sure. And we don't take any of our access for granted. It's a lot of fun to be behind the scenes and checking out Buffalo Bills training camp. And I know a lot of our colleagues have had the chance to tour the new stadium and see some of what progress is being built there. So we'll keep you posted on the return of the blue and the red happening now in Orchard Park at Highmark Stadium. And once we have word on whether or not Josh Allen's wearing a colored helmet,
we'll have the breaking news sound.
That is breaking news for sure. There was football last night. It was the Chargers demolishing the Lions. The Lions look bad, 34-7. It's the Hall of Fame game, so don't read anything too far into it. But Trey Lance, 13 of 20, 120 yards. Jim Harbaugh is right. I mean, his thing is like, look, this kid hasn't played a lot of football. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities. We forget, he got drafted by the Niners. He had 17 starts in college for North Dakota State University. What could go wrong? I mean, he came in with hardly any experience into the NFL, and he hasn't gotten a ton of experience in the NFL since being drafted by the Niners. So Harbaugh, I think wisely, giving him opportunity to play, and he played quite a bit last night.
Time out. Like, I could understand the Niners moving off of him, Why did the Cowboys take him? Like, the timeline for that, where you have Dak Prescott, and, like, he wasn't going to resign with Dallas. Come on. So Dallas gets nothing in the end.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to Dallas in a second. And come to find out that Lance and Taylor Heineke are battling in camp to back up Justin Herbert. So Lance doing himself some favors with a pretty decent stat line, 13 of 20, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, sloppy game by the Lions, 5 turnovers, no takeaways. Now to Dallas, where Micah Parsons has bid farewell. We've seen this story a million times, and you can read into it what you want. It's an emotional goodbye on his Twitter feed, and he shared this long story that reads like a novel, documenting everything that's gone on since he joined the Cowboys and since he's been talking about trying to get a new deal, and he's done with the being taken advantage of, and blah, blah, blah. Look, ultimately, I don't know that there's anybody that really truly believes Micah Parsons is going to be traded. I don't think the Cowboys might be a bit dysfunctional. I don't think they're that stupid that they would trade away one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the league. All he wants is to be paid as the best defensive player in the league.
Well, all right. I'm going to take Parsons at face value. Okay, and the face value point is in this long post, right, that his representation, they haven't heard from the Cowboys. How is that even possible? How? I can understand, Danger, that negotiations, if you're not through it, you know what they kind of bring? They kind of bring stress, right? Like, if you are worried about your job, and look, Micah Parsons, he's always going to have, a position in this league, but he wants to know he's all set as a Dallas Cowboy. And he sees other guys going through this before and how they've been dragged out. And before, where maybe a CeeDee Lamb didn't get, emotional like on the outset, or Dak Prescott for that matter, this feels a little different. So are the Cowboys receiving calls on Micah Parsons? Of course they are. Are they going to do anything about it? I'd be shocked if they were.
Yeah, I agree. The thing that's interesting to me about this, about the Cowboys and the way they've handled this situation, it's not unlike the way they handled the Dak Prescott situation. It's not unlike how they handled the CeeDee Lamb situation. Micah Parsons has been extension eligible since January of 2024. In 2023, he finished the season with 14 sacks, 64 tackles, a forced fumble, and the second highest defensive PFF grade. And at that time, after that season, the highest paid edge rusher in the league was TJ Watt at $28 million. Now you're going to have to go north of $41 million to give Parsons what he deserves here, which is to be paid as the highest paid defender in the NFL. The last time we saw this play out wasn't long ago. It was this winter. It was Myles Garrett. He wants a trade. He wants out of Cleveland. What did he get? A contract that was $4.5 million more per year than any defensive player in history from the Browns. And if I were to make a prediction here, I would say Dallas is about to pay Micah Parsons somewhere in the neighborhood of $45 million per year when this is all said and done.
Do they view the publicity, that difference in dollars? I'm asking the question, like, for us talking about the Cowboys and everybody talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys view it as a win, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about us.
Is that worth the publicity, the extra $5 million more a year you might be paying? I hope that's not the way they look at things. If I'm a Cowboy fan, this would drive me nuts. It's not the way to build a team.
Every Cowboy fan I've seen in my feed is saying the same thing. Enough. This is crazy. We keep doing this. Why do we keep doing this? Why do they keep jerking their best players around the way they do? And Parsons apparently has had enough. We'll see where it goes. And yes, if you're a football fan, you're probably envisioning a way that your favorite team can somehow end up with Micah Parsons. I just don't know that I see Dallas trading Micah Parsons. What would that trade look like? If you wanted to compare it to a similar type player / situation, Khalil Mack, when he got dealt from the Raiders to the Bears, I want to say it was 2 first-rounders, a third, and a sixth for Mack, and a second. I just don't see the Cowboys pulling the trigger on getting rid of Parsons. I don't know that that happens. We'll see how it all shakes out. But Parsons and Terry McLaurin, what we should stay in the NFC East. Terry McLaurin also wanting out.
We got breaking news in the sports bar, Danger.
Okay.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
The winner of our bet, Josh Allen. What color helmet is he wearing? We don't have a winner.
We're off the board.
We're off the
We
board.
got a dark horse. What do we have?
We
We don't know what it is.
No, we know what it is.
Leather helmet. What did he find?
It's what the Bills are going to wear Week 18.
The red helmet.
The red helmet,
Okay.
like the actual red helmet.
Why didn't either of us draft that?
That should
God,
have been.
we're
I
stupid.
went with the red chrome. I'm
We're
thinking
stupid.
"Ah."
We are dumb. What? We are so dumb. What? So does it look better than the red helmet that he wore coming out of the tunnel
Oh,
a
I
couple
can
of years
tell
ago?
this is actually it, but the problem is the red. He's wearing the red non-contact jersey, which is so bright. I don't know if this is that. I'm looking back at this. I don't know if this is the actual helmet the Bills will wear Week 18. It's a red helmet he's wearing. Oh, Danger! I really thought you were going to win with potato.
I'm getting a look at it now, thanks to Joe Biscaglia, who, by the way, will be joining us when next week.
Mm-hmm.
One of the days next week, we're going to get Joe Biscaglia from the Athletic on with us. Yeah, that helmet looks sharp. It's not his red practice jersey. It's that's the red game jersey.
You're correct on that.
So that helmet looks sharp. That doesn't look like the helmet that he wore the first time he came out of the tunnel.
No, you could tell by the modern earpiece. Yeah, that's a modern helmet he's wearing.
Yeah, that's sharp. Oof. That is catnip for Bills fans. My God, if you see that he's got the visor. Josh Allen looks cool. I mean, we already know what kind of a customer he is. He looks cool. He looks badass. That's what everybody wanted to see. It's the red helmet, and he's got the visor. And fans at the blue and the red. Looks like the lower half of the bowl is full all the way around from what I've seen from videos. So not a complete mob scene there at Highmark, but certainly plenty of fans coming out to see their favorite team practice.
You can write to us, our handle, The Fan Rochester on X. Jack writing, and my bold prediction for 2026 is that the first event in the new Bill Stadium will be a Taylor Swift concert emceed by Travis Kelce.
Jack, you've been listening to the show for a long time. Don't make us ban you.
I was going to say, that's beyond trolling. That's something that Binkley would write in.
We know what good trolling looks like. We've seen it. We've seen a lot of good trolling. That is not good trolling. If you want to troll us, yeah, you're Jack. Is that even a real name? I'm asking. Gene, is Jack a real name?
Well, no. John is the name. Jack is the nickname if you're Jonathan. But this Jack actually pulled me aside, said, see, and pulled out his license. And there it said Jack.
All right, Jack. Yeah. We'll give you a pass. Appreciate you listening, buddy. Let's get to a round of shots next.
Yeah, we'll go over some of the baseball stuff this weekend coming up here. A different angle on this betting, which, Danger, I feel like you and I are talking about this and not as many people talking about this Guardian betting scandal here that we're kind of investigating. The NBA salary cap is something the Knicks are keeping in mind where they may have actually flexibility here. We'll tell you why. And 1-0-0 Marv Levy hitting that coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a big milestone. We'll talk a little bit about that. By the way, is Josh Allen wearing the red helmet more tonight than he will Week 18?
Ooh.
I think he wears it more tonight than he does at the end of the season. I think Week 18 we're seeing Mike White wearing the red helmet.
Well, Josh Allen will go out there for the one snap. One play.
Yeah, he's wearing it more tonight. He's wearing it more tonight than Week 18. We're just popping off. We are just popping off. We are so back. I love it. Round of shots on the way. Plus last call. You can have the final word in the sports bar at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN.
update.
The blue and the red practice just underway at Highmark Stadium. Josh Allen entering the field wearing a red helmet, much like the one the Bills will wear in Week 18. Rookie TJ Sanders looking forward to this.
I'm actually really ready for that. I was talking to DC when I first got here. He was like, we got like a little scrimmage type deal in the stadium during camp. Like, you're going to love that. And the closer and closer we get into it, it's like, I'm juiced.
Former Buffalo Bills receiver Amari Cooper announced his retirement today. Dallas Cowboys defensive end Mike Parsons not happy. He has requested a trade. On the Major League scoreboard, Reds over the Braves 3-2. The Cubs shutting out the Orioles 1-0. Yankees in Miami tonight. The Mets hosting the Giants. The Rochester Red Wings continuing their series in Charlotte. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
All right, happy hour continues in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. Yeah, I'm still upset at ourselves. And Greg, thanks, one of our loyal listeners, one of our regulars on X, watching along on the YouTube stream. You can watch as well at The Fan Rochester, doing play-by-play as we learn that Josh Allen came out onto the field for the blue and the red practice wearing the red throwback helmet that they're going to wear Week 18, and neither of us drafted that in our helmet draft. What's wrong with us? We are dumb.
This feels like this was kind of coming from the marketing department or somebody else.
Came
right?
from Gwelly.
Yeah.
Gwelly probably gave him it's probably the helmet that Gwelly had hanging out of his bag when he moved into the dorms at Fisher.
We're just upset we didn't get it.
That's right.
Danger, is this a politician grandstanding, or is this something that we should actually discuss here? Ohio Governor Mike DeWine believes that player props are too easy for athletes to exploit and called them to be banned in his state. Guardians pitchers Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz are accused of manipulating prop bets, called for them to start the inning throwing a ball instead of a strike on purpose.
I think it is because every politician, I think, is looking for a headline to grab onto and a way to get attention to their name. Grab those headlines while you can. But I don't think he's wrong. Like, if you believe in your state that that prop should go away, then just get rid of it. Get rid of those kind of bets in your state.
Like in New York State, we can't bet on the NFL draft.
Right.
Okay, like honestly, like I'm going to have some intel or somebody else, like Brandon Beans, like, we really like this. That's going to happen.
You can, if he believes that it should be eliminated, then eliminate it. Go ahead. Go through the process. Get it out. You can do that. You're a politician. And don't just grab the headline. Take action.
Well, due process, blah, 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 disclaimer, okay? There it is. If these guys are guilty, they're done. And I'm not talking about just from the game. They should go to jail.
It's criminal behavior.
Yeah, it's criminal behavior.
There's probably millions and millions of dollars exchanging accounts and being bet on the outcomes of those singular pitches that they clearly did not intend to. They clearly didn't do their job.
Now say, and I could hear somebody putting up the counter argument, Gene, some of these players are coming from some countries where people can get to family members and everything. Well, maybe that's where Major League Baseball and every sport really has to do a better job of security. Because how do you really, like, if you have these stories of players being approached, and probably there's a bunch of them, are we doing enough? Being
approached by seedy characters who threaten the lives of their family members?
Sure.
Yeah. I would say then, yes, beef up your security or isolate yourself, or that's a tough it's a tough thing for us to try to relate to. I can't relate to it at all. You get approached to do bad business. You just kind of have to say, I'm not going to do bad business. But if you're dealing with criminals, then yeah, let's get those criminals too while we're at it. I mean, like, these guys, that's criminal behavior. But if it's coming if the criminal behavior is happening because there are criminals threatening them, we should know about that too.
Would it, like, to the governor's point though, would anybody be upset if, like, dumb prop bets like is this a ball or strike?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's every state has the ability to mold and shape it however they want to mold and shape it. So if this politician in the state of Ohio doesn't want fans to be able to bet on the outcomes of balls or strikes, first pitch in the inning, then get rid of it. You can get rid of it. You want to get rid of no run first innings? Get rid of it. It's a prop. You don't have to have it. You want to get rid of, you want to not be able to bet on the NFL draft? We can't do it here. Betting on teams in your own state, college teams in your own state, we can't do that in New York State. We can't bet on the Qs.
No, we can't. When it comes to the Super Bowl, we can't bet on all the fun stuff, the color of the Gatorade, the time.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
So you go ahead, Mr. Politician. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. If it really bothers you, you have the power. Go ahead and do it. You know what? So many people that I know that enjoy gambling, they do it because it's just fun. They just like the action. I don't think they really care about. They're looking for value. They want to find the best places where they can find value. And this is a cheat code. This was a cheat code for whoever profited off of it. Somebody knew something. Somebody, something nefarious is going on here. That was a cheat code. And guess who doesn't like to be cheated? The casinos don't like to be cheated. They are in business to take your money, and they will take your money. Yeah, go ahead and change it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it.
We mentioned yesterday in Shots how tomorrow the Cubs will honor the late Ryan Sandberg, everywhere wearing a 1984-style jersey with a number 23 on the back. Today, some good news for Cubs fans. The team's going to host the 2027 All-Star Game. Last time the Midsummer Classic was at Wrigley, it was 1990. Next year's All-Star Game will be in Philly.
So I saw this story, and I immediately thought of our conversation the other day when we were talking about the Bills hosting the NFL Draft. We thought, the Bills will be hosting the NFL Draft, and they'll get it in the next couple of years. And that, was it Gwelly that told us?
It was Gwelly at the Sabres presser that said, yeah, you know what, we're going to go for 2029 or 2030. Like, why would they push this back? Oh, of course they're pushing it back because you need to knock down the stadium and you need whatever development to go up there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And what I can say about Wrigley Field, the last time I was there was a few years ago, and most of the renovations were done, but the development outside the stadium was still under construction. Well, by the time you get to 2027, Wrigley Field is going to be the completion of the reimagined Wrigleyville will be complete, and everybody will have a great time.
You can predict more often than not who's going to get the All-Star game. Just look at, all right, who did the stadium improvements, and we owe this little bone to this city or this franchise.
Well, then what's your excuse for Philadelphia next year?
That's because it's bicentennial, 250.
Yep.
So they planned that out years in advance.
Yep.
Toronto would be the next one in line. Toronto did all that work, and from people that I've talked to, they're going to say that's great. Like, and you might be going there. Like, tell me what.
Yeah, I'll be there in September. I mean, I went to a game last year at Rogers Center, and they were doing a lot of the renovation, a lot of the construction. Some of the sections were shut down. You couldn't go everywhere. So I imagine that now I've been there. I was there for a game last summer. I went to Metallica. There was still construction going on. So yeah, I'm going to a game next month, and I'll report back on the findings.
They've done a good job where it really is like the last of the multi-purpose kind of.
I'll tell you, man. I mean, I know that domed stadiums get a bad rap for being kind of sterile and not having a lot of character. But man, when I was at Rogers Center and they had the roof open and the CN Tower is in the background and you can see the CN Tower, like the vibes are immaculate in that place. This is a lot of fun.
Well, the Go Toronto song, right? Like I always like when going there years ago, I thought it was like a church, like so quiet and sterile, and they're doing a better job of trying to get people engaged.
Yeah, and another team to root for if you're provincial like we are in Rochester. Ernie Clement having himself a nice season with the Jays.
Of course, we're provincial. We got to root for our guy.
That's right.
The Yankees today releasing pitcher Marcus Stroman. He pitched in 9 games for the Yankees this season.
How many times did he pitch this season?
9 games.
9 times.
Wasn't very good. Had an ERA of 6.23 for New York. Making room. Luis Gil will be coming off the IL. He's going to go back to New York on Sunday. The Yankees beginning a series tonight down in Miami, which I don't know. Have you ever heard of the Marlins there?
I don't think about them at all. Are they a real team?
I don't think so.
Stroman's a head case, right? Like that's the knock on Stroman. He's just kind of nuts.
I don't know his height. Okay, but I think he's made the most of this. But this is it. Like, yeah, he runs a little hot. I guess. You
Okay.
could say that's fair. The NBA salary cap. I'm just from my standpoint, Danger. It's confusing. Max extensions, aprons. Who has the time and wants to learn this stuff? I just glaze over. So I'm just going to try to simplify what the story is all about, what you need to know. Today, the Knicks signing Mikal Bridges. 4 years, $150 million. This is an extension. It's a little less than he could have earned on the open market. It's a big deal. By doing so, the Knicks are okay on both aprons, meaning they're going to have the flexibility to do something this year if they want, like, I don't know, maybe add an outside shooter.
Where are they going to find one? Oh, yeah, that's right. They got rid of DiVincenzo. That's a great deal for the Knicks. Look, I'm kind of excited to see what they look like. I don't like how they did Tibbs at the end of last season. I thought it was a lot of fun. That was a fun team to watch last postseason before they hit that buzzsaw in Indiana. But right now, when you look at the East, why not New York? Why not New York in 2026?
The East is going to – you're going to have silly predictions about the East. Like, it's Orlando.
I've already seen them.
It's like, it's Detroit.
Already seen them.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's never been more lopsided, really. We have another cryptic report, Danger, concerning the Rochester Nighthawks. And Levy pointing out today – putting out on X that a deal is very close to the Nighthawks being sold, which is in line with what Bills and Sabres CEO Pete Goelli was telling us last Friday, that things were on track and looking positive.
Good. So now it's just a matter of dotting I's and crossing T's, getting your messaging straight, and laying this all out to the people of Rochester, laying it all out to the community.
And then the kicker would be, hey, we still have the Nighthawks. Oh, wait, the CBA. Are we going to have a season?
Are we going to have a season?
Yeah,
right.
that would be the kicker.
Let's. I don't know which one is supposed to come first. I mean, I would imagine the CBA would be nice to have done first. But if we know going into the negotiation for a new CBA that at least we know the Nighthawks are safe and that they're going to be here, and we've got an owner that has invested in them and invested in our community, I think that's a good start.
Is it contingent on playing this season? Because, hey, imagine you're going to buy this team.
That would be interesting.
And you're going to lose all this money right out of the gate. Poof.
Right.
By not having fans come in. Yeah. Until we get the announcement, folks, I'm not – and I appreciate people are reaching out to me. Hey, what do you know? What do you know? And in pointing out Levy, I thank Carter. I thank everybody. That,
I think what we know is that we're close.
We're close.
And that's really all we can say.
Finally, congrats to former Buffalo Bills and Hall of Famer head coach Marv Levy. This Sunday, Marv turns 100. He actually made the trek to Canton for the Hall of Fame festivities, today being the annual luncheon. Jill Kelly posting on Insta a picture of Jim, Marv, and former GM Bill Polian. Marv Levy, born in 1925. 1925 was also the last year of the Rochester Jeffersons in the NFL.
What? Say that last part again?
Yeah, that's when we had an NFL team here in Rochester.
Okay. All right, listen, Gene. We've been doing this show together for 9 years, okay?
9 times.
I'm done with the lies.
You saw the football, you saw the jersey.
I've had it, okay? I don't know who you think you're talking to, pal, but I wasn't born yesterday, all right? I've been living through an era where I know there's no way this community supported an NFL franchise. No way that Rochester had an NFL team. Who do you think you're talking to, pal?
We had a Subway, an NBA team.
Yeah, okay, yeah. What else are you going to tell me? We had the Empire State Building here. They just moved it to New York City. What other lies? You sleep on a bed of lies, Gene. All I know is that Kodak used to be something, and now it's not. That there used to be a lot of people that now okay. So you're telling me we had an NFL team? I don't buy it. Okay, I wasn't born yesterday. An NBA team? Get out of here. Where'd they play? Blue Cross Arena?
Yeah, they did right at the end, but it was called just the War Memorial back then. And they played at the Anderson Sports Arena where it's an open field.
That
right
arena
now
is not NBA compatible. We don't even get preseason games, Gene. We don't get NBA preseason games at Blue Cross Arena. How are you going to tell me that an NBA team was here in Rochester? Come on, get out.
We did. Chris in Kentucky won't believe this because he's pointed out the same thing. Chris, honestly, I wrote this earlier today. Danger's my witness, but he said verbatim the same thing. Chris, always appreciate you listening.
Chris likes to fashion himself as a sports bar producer.
He's quasi-producer,
yeah. He's our listener producer. Like we have citizen journalists.
We have I love all our listener producers. Like, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? You and I are busy guys. Danger.
Marv Levy turning 100, being born the year that the final year of the Rochester Jeffersons were in the NFL. Wow.
And he's there smiling, and he's using a walker now. Well, yeah, at least he can walk at 100.
It's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap up next. Close up shop. We've got last call at 866-4326. 585-866-4FAN. Buffalo Bills training camp coverage on the Fan Rochester is brought to you by Ace Swim and Leisure. Get the most out of summer. Ace has beautiful outdoor furniture, fire pits, parts, accessories, chemicals, everything you need for your pool. Chili Ave and Ridge Road, Webster. AceSwim.com. It is last call in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia before we head out for your sports weekend. We check in at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Pete, what's up, bud?
Hey, I just want to let you know I've called Vlade Divac from the Sacramento Kings to make sure that we keep going with the Rochester Royals, just to keep it up, that they're not a real team. I want to make sure that all the jerseys still say Rochester Royals. So let me start there.
They just say Royals, though. They don't say Rochester anyway. They just say Royals. I mean, what are you going to tell me? That we had an NBA team? Come on.
Well, Google it. They say Rochester, so I feel like I have done my part to make sure that the Rochester Royals conspiracy has gone further. The other thing is, as a Jets fan, I do appreciate the Buffalo Bills thing, and I'm just glad to know that Justin Fields only hurt his toe, not his Achilles. And, gentlemen, I'm just calling on a Friday because you are the joy of being a Jets fan in Buffalo Bills country. You talk real, and that's all I want to say. So please keep up the good work. I wish you didn't need producers like myself and Chris from South Central Kentucky to get all of this. I wish you could do this full time. Love you. Enjoy the weekend. That's all.
That's
Thanks,
very
Pete.
kind of you, Pete. Appreciate that. One of our regulars there, Pete, sending us off into the weekend.
That's it. We next week. Wow, do we have lineups for you going back to Fisher? Last week of training camp.
Yeah, we go out strong.
Gonna high step it.
We're going to have the director of Hard Knocks, Penfield native Pat Harris, stopping by the sports bar on Monday. Elena Getzenberg, covering the Bills for ESPN, will be joining us as well. Not sure which player we're going to get on Monday. Do we know?
We don't like to jinx it because you never know with injuries or whatever, but I can tell you these are guys that you're going to want to listen to.
For sure. That's coming up on Monday. We hope you enjoy your weekend. If you missed any of today's show, our YouTube channel where we stream live every day, lots of content there. You can go back and watch the entirety of the show at your leisure. JR Sport Brief is next. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening to The Fan Rochester.